Tonight, a billionaire CEO showed up at my door, red-eyed, her wedding dress still intact, having just canceled her wedding in front of thousands of guests. She didn't go to family, didn't go to friends, but to me, a single father making a living as a carpenter. I knew opening the door would disrupt the peaceful life I provided for my daughter. But when I saw the despair in her eyes, I couldn't turn away. That decision changed everything. Follow my story to the end. Like and comment on the city you're viewing to let me know how far this story has come. The knock came at 11:47 p.m. Not the polite tap of a neighbor borrowing sugar, not the hurried rhythm of a delivery driver running late. This was desperate. 3 sharp raps followed by silence. Then 3 more, like someone fighting the urge to pound the door down. Noah Carter froze with a dish towel in his hands, water still dripping from the plate he'd been drying. His daughter Mia had been asleep for 2 hours. The neighborhood was quiet. Nobody came by this late. He set the plate down carefully and moved toward the front door, his sock feet silent on the worn hardwood. Through the peephole, he saw her. Alara Voss stood on his porch in a wedding dress. Not just any wedding dress, the kind that cost more than his truck, all ivory silk and delicate beading that caught the porch light like scattered diamonds. Her dark hair had come loose from whatever elaborate style it had been arranged in, falling in waves around her shoulders. Mascara tracked down her cheeks in thin black lines. She was shaking. Noah's hand was on his deadbolt before his brain caught up to what he was seeing. Every rational thought screamed at him to leave the door closed, to pretend he hadn't seen her, to protect the quiet life he'd built for himself and Mia. But his body had already made the decision. He opened the door. Alara looked up at him, and for a moment neither of them spoke. Her eyes were red-rimmed and glassy, her breath coming in short, uneven gasps. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. "I didn't know where else to go." Her voice cracked on the last word. Noah glanced past her at the sleek black car idling at the curb, tinted windows revealing nothing. Then he stepped aside. "Come in." She moved past him quickly, like she was afraid he'd change his mind. The wedding dress rustled with each step, absurdly loud in the quiet of his small living room. Noah closed the door and turned to find her standing in the middle of the space, looking lost and out of place among his secondhand furniture and Mia's scattered toys. "I'm sorry," she said, not looking at him. "I shouldn't have. I know this is—" "Sit down before you fall down." She sat. The dress pooled around her like spilled cream on his faded gray couch. Noah grabbed the throw blanket from the armchair and handed it to her, then disappeared into the kitchen. When he came back with a glass of water, she hadn't moved except to pull the blanket around her shoulders. "Drink," he said, setting the glass on the coffee table. She reached for it with trembling hands, took a small sip, then set it back down. "The wedding was tonight," she said to the glass. "I figured. I called it off, right before I was supposed to walk down the aisle, in front of 400 people. Noah lowered himself into the armchair across from her. He didn't ask why. He didn't ask who this groom had been or what had happened to make her run. He just waited. "Everyone thinks I'm having a breakdown," Alara continued. Her voice had steadied slightly, but her hands were still wrapped tight in the blanket. "My mother called me selfish. Marcus, my fiancé, he just stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I have. Maybe this is what losing your mind looks like." "You seem pretty sane to me," she laughed, sharp and bitter. "I'm sitting in your living room in a wedding dress at midnight after abandoning my own wedding. That's not sane, Noah." "No," he agreed. "But it's not crazy either." She finally looked at him then, really looked at him. Her eyes moved over his face like she was trying to find something, some answer or reassurance or proof that she hadn't made a terrible mistake by coming here. "I couldn't do it," she said quietly. "I was standing there in the bridal suite, looking at myself in the mirror, and I just couldn't. All I could think about was how none of it felt real. The dress, the venue, Marcus waiting at the altar. It was all like watching someone else's life. Like I was playing a part in a movie I never auditioned for." Noah leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "When did you know that I had to leave? About an hour before the ceremony? When did I know the whole thing was wrong?" She pulled the blanket tighter. "A long time ago. I just didn't want to admit it." A floorboard creaked in the hallway. Both of them turned toward the sound. Mia stood there in her pajamas, The ones with the purple dinosaurs that she insisted weren't for babies, even though she was 7 now, and supposedly too old for cartoon dinosaurs. Her blonde hair stuck up on one side from sleep. "Daddy?" She rubbed her eyes. "Who's that?" "Just a friend, sweetheart. Go back to bed." But Mia was already padding across the room, her gaze fixed on Alara with the frank, unfiltered curiosity of childhood. "Why is she wearing a princess dress?" Alara's expression shifted, some of the tension leaving her face. "It's a wedding dress, actually. Did you get married?" "No, I decided not to." Mia tilted her head, considering this. "Why not?" "Mia," Noah said gently, "that's not polite." It's okay." Alara's voice was softer now. "It's a fair question. I didn't get married because I realized I was marrying the wrong person." "Oh." Mia nodded like this made perfect sense. "My dad says you should only marry someone if they make you happy, and you make them happy, and you both like the same kind of pizza." Despite everything, Alara smiled. "That sounds like good advice." "Mia," Noah stood. "Back to bed, now." "Can she stay here tonight? She looks sad." "That's not—" Noah stopped, meeting Alara's eyes over his daughter's head. "We'll figure it out. Say goodnight." "Goodnight, princess dress lady." "Goodnight, dinosaur pajama girl." Mia giggled and let Noah scoop her up. He carried her back down the hallway, tucking her into bed and kissing her forehead before returning to the living room. Alara hadn't moved, but she was looking at the framed photos on the bookshelf, mostly pictures of Mia at various ages, gap-toothed and grinning. "She's beautiful," Alara said, without turning around. "She's everything. I can see that." She turned to face him. "I remember you talking about her, back when we knew each other before. You'd just gotten custody. You were terrified." "Still am most days." "You don't look terrified. You look steady." Noah didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. The silence stretched between them, not quite comfortable but not entirely awkward either. "I should go," Alara said finally, but she didn't move. "I've already imposed enough." "Where will you go?" "I don't know. A hotel, I guess. Somewhere my mother won't think to look." "At midnight? In a wedding dress?" She laughed again, but this time it sounded closer to real. "When you put it that way, it does sound a bit dramatic." "You can stay here tonight," Noah heard himself say. "The couch pulls out. It's not much, but it's clean." "Noah, I can't." "Yeah, you can. Get some sleep. Figure out the rest tomorrow." She studied him for a long moment, searching his face for something. Whatever she found there must have been enough, because she nodded. "Okay, thank you." He pulled out the couch bed and brought her a pillow and an extra blanket from the hall closet. She stood awkwardly to the side, still wrapped in the throw blanket, while he made up the bed. "Bathroom's down the hall on the right," he said. "There should be a spare toothbrush under the sink. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen if you get hungry." "Noah?" He stopped at the edge of the living room, one hand on the light switch. "Why did you let me in? You barely know me anymore. We haven't spoken in, 3 years?" "4," he corrected. "And I let you in because you asked. Because you looked like you needed somewhere safe to land for a night. That's all." "That's all," she repeated quietly. He turned off the light, leaving only the dim glow from the kitchen to guide his way back to his bedroom. Behind him, he heard the soft rustle of silk as she settled onto the pull-out bed. Sleep didn't come easy. Noah lay in his own bed, staring at the ceiling and wondering what he'd just invited into his carefully constructed life. Alara Voss. He'd known her years ago, back when she was still climbing the corporate ladder, and he'd been working as a site foreman on one of her company's construction projects. They'd talked sometimes during inspections, brief conversations that had surprised him with their honesty. She'd seemed different then, more uncertain beneath the professional polish. Then she'd moved up and he'd moved on, and their paths hadn't crossed again until tonight. Now she was sleeping in his living room, and tomorrow the whole world would be looking for her. He must have drifted off eventually, because the next thing he knew, sunlight was streaming through his window and Mia was jumping on his bed. "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy! The princess dress lady is making pancakes!" Noah sat up too fast, his head spinning. "What? Come on!" Mia grabbed his hand and dragged him out of bed. He followed her down the hallway in his t-shirt and sweatpants, his mind still foggy with sleep. The smell hit him first, butter and vanilla and coffee. Then he rounded the corner into the kitchen and stopped short. Alara stood at his stove, still wearing the wedding dress, but with one of his flannel shirts thrown over it, like a robe. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she was flipping pancakes with the easy confidence of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. Mia sat at the kitchen table, swinging her legs and chattering about something to do with school. "I hope you don't mind," Alara said, glancing over her shoulder at him. "I couldn't sleep, and I found the pancake mix in your pantry. Mia said you usually make them on Saturdays." "It's Saturday?" Noah ran a hand through his hair. "Right, yeah, Saturday." "Sit down, coffee's ready." He sat, still half convinced he was dreaming. Mia was telling Alara about her friend Emma, who had brought a salamander to show and tell. And Alara was listening like it was the most fascinating story she'd ever heard. She slid a plate of pancakes in front of Mia, then another in front of Noah, then sat down with her own. "These are really good," Mia announced through a mouthful of pancake. "Thank you. My grandmother taught me. She said pancakes were the foundation of civilization." What's civilization? Everything people build together, cities and roads and libraries and rules about not eating salamanders. Mia giggled. Noah cut into his pancake, trying to reconcile the woman sitting at his kitchen table with the billionaire CEO whose face he'd seen on business magazines. She'd rolled up the sleeves of his flannel shirt, and there was a smudge of flour on her cheek. His phone buzzed on the counter, then again, then 3 more times in rapid succession. "You should probably check that," Alara said quietly. Noah retrieved the phone and his stomach dropped. Text messages from 3 different friends, all containing links to news articles. He opened one. Billionaire CEO Alara. Voss vanishes after canceling wedding at last minute. There was a photo, Alara in her wedding dress, clearly taken outside the venue. Her face was blurred with motion, one hand raised to block the camera. Speculation mounts over Voss' disappearance. Company stock drops 6% in after-hours trading. He set the phone face down on the counter. "That bad?" Alara asked. "They're calling it a disappearance." "Of course they are." She took a sip of her coffee, her expression unreadable. "I should probably call my publicist, and my lawyer, and my mother, though that conversation is going to be—" She stopped, closing her eyes. "I don't want to think about that conversation." "Then don't. Not yet. I have to face it eventually." "Yeah, but not right now. Right now you're having pancakes with a 7-year-old who thinks salamanders are fascinating. The rest can wait an hour." Something in her face softened. "An hour. Okay." They finished breakfast in relative quiet, Mia filling the silence with stories about school and her friend Emma and the book she was reading about dragons. Alara asked questions and laughed at the right moments, and if Noah hadn't known better, he might have thought this was normal, just 3 people sharing a Saturday morning meal. After breakfast, Mia wanted to show Alara her room. Noah started to protest, but Alara was already following his daughter down the hallway, the wedding dress trailing behind her like a silk ghost. He cleared the table and loaded the dishwasher, listening to their voices drift back to him. "This is Mr. Whiskers. He's a stuffed cat, but he's also a detective." "A detective cat? That's very prestigious." "What's prestigious? It means important and respected." "Yeah, he solves mysteries, like who ate the cookies? And who did eat the cookies?" A pause. "Okay, it was me. But Mr. Whiskers helped me confess." Ilara's laugh was genuine this time, full and unguarded. Noah found himself smiling as he wiped down the counter. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from an unknown number. He considered ignoring it, but something made him answer. "Noah Carter?" "Speaking." "Whoa. This is Rebecca Chen from the New York Tribune. I'm calling about Alara Voss. We have reason to believe she may have contacted you. Can you confirm—" He hung up. The phone rang again immediately. Different number. He sent it to voicemail. Alara appeared in the kitchen doorway. "They found me." "Not exactly. They're guessing." "What does?" "Someone must have seen my car last night, or tracked my phone before I turned it off." She leaned against the door frame. This is going to get worse before it gets better. What do you want to do? I don't know. She looked exhausted suddenly, the brief lightness from breakfast fading. I can't hide here forever. It's not fair to you or Mia. But if I go back now, if I face all of them without a plan, so make a plan. It's not that simple, isn't it? Noah set down the dish towel. You called off the wedding because it was wrong. That part's done. Now you just have to decide what's next. Just, she repeated. You make it sound easy. I didn't say easy. I said simple. There's a difference. She was quiet for a moment, her fingers tracing the pattern on the flannel shirt. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why aren't you angry with me for showing up here, for dragging you into this mess? Are you dragging me? Last I checked, I opened the door. I invited you to stay. Those were my choices. Choices that could blow up in your face if the media decides we're involved somehow. Are we involved? The question hung in the air between them. Alara met his eyes, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or possibility. She looked away first. No, she said. We're not. Then I'm not worried about it. He wasn't sure that was entirely true, but he said it anyway. Alara's phone rang from somewhere in the living room, a muffled sound from inside her purse. She didn't move to answer it. You can't avoid them forever, Noah said gently. I know. I just need a little more time to think. She straightened up, smoothing down the flannel shirt. Would it be too much to ask if I could take a shower? I promise I'll be out of your hair soon. Take your time. There's towels in the bathroom closet. She disappeared down the hallway. A few minutes later, Noah heard the water running. Mia emerged from her room carrying Mr. Whiskers. Is Alara going to stay with us? She asked. Just for today, probably. She's nice and sad. Why is she sad? Noah crouched down to Mia's level. Sometimes grown-ups make big decisions that are hard but right, and that can feel confusing and scary even when you know it's what you need to do. Mia considered this seriously. Like when you quit your old job to stay home with me more? Yeah, kind of like that. And that was scary but good? Exactly. Then Alara's going to be okay, Mia declared with the certainty of childhood. Because you're here to help her, and you're good at helping people. If only it were that simple, Noah thought. But he smiled at his daughter and ruffled her hair. The shower ran for a long time. When Alara finally emerged, she was wearing the same wedding dress. There wasn't much choice, but her hair was clean and pulled back, and the mascara tracks were gone. She looked younger without the makeup, more vulnerable. I need to make some calls, she said. Is there somewhere private I could... My bedroom, door closes, and Mia knows not to bother people when the door's shut. Thank you. She was in there for over an hour. Noah kept Mia occupied with a puzzle at the kitchen table, but he could hear Alara's voice through the door, sharp, then pleading, then cold and professional. He caught fragments. My decision? No comment. I don't care what the board thinks. When she finally came out, she looked drained. I'm going back, she announced. This afternoon. I have to face them. The company, the press, all of it. My publicist is setting up a statement. What will you say? The truth, more or less. That I called off the wedding because I realized it wasn't right for me. That I take full responsibility for any inconvenience or embarrassment caused. That I'm committed to the company and my role as CEO. Do you believe that? The last part? She met his eyes. I don't know, but it's what I need to say right now. Noah nodded. When are you leaving? Tom. My driver will be here in an hour. She glanced down at the wedding dress. I don't suppose you have anything I could change into? I can't exactly show up in this. He found her a pair of his sweatpants and a plain black t-shirt. They were too big on her, but she made them work, rolling up the cuffs and tying the shirt at her waist. The wedding dress she folded carefully and placed in a garbage bag she'd found under his sink. Evidence disposal, she joked weakly. Mia was disappointed when she heard Alara was leaving. But you just got here. I know, sweetheart, but I have some things I need to take care of. Will you come back? Alara glanced at Noah, then back at Mia. I hope so. The car arrived exactly on time. A different one this time, sleek and silver with government-grade tinting. The driver got out and opened the back door without a word. Alara turned to Noah on the porch, the garbage bag with the wedding dress clutched in one hand. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "You don't have to." "I do, though. You gave me a place to breathe when I felt like I was drowning. That's not nothing. It was a couch and some pancakes." "It was more than that." She stepped closer, and for a moment he thought she might hug him. Instead, she just held his gaze. "I meant what I said to Mia. I hope I can come back, not to hide, just to, I don't know, remember what normal feels like. Doors always open." She smiled, sad but genuine. Then she got in the car and was gone. Noah stood on the porch long after the car had disappeared around the corner. Mia tugged on his hand. "Do you like her, Daddy?" "She's a friend, Mia. But do you like her? He looked down at his daughter's expectant face. "It's complicated. That's what grown-ups always say when the answer is yes." Before he could respond, his phone rang again. This time it was a number he recognized, his buddy Jake from his old construction crew. "Dude," Jake said without preamble, "please tell me you didn't somehow hook up with Alara Voss." "What? No, why would you?" "Because you're about to be all over the news. Someone got a picture of her leaving your house, in your clothes." Noah's stomach dropped. "You're kidding. I'm looking at it right now. It's already online. Mystery man shelters runaway billionaire. This is insane, man. Jake, it's not what it looks like. I believe you. But I'm not the one you need to convince." Noah hung up and pulled up the article on his phone. Sure enough, there was a photo, grainy but unmistakable. Alara walking to the car in his sweatpants and t-shirt, Noah visible in the background on the porch. The speculation in the comments was already running wild. He closed the browser and took a breath. This was going to be a problem. A big one. But when he looked down at Mia, still holding his hand and looking up at him with complete trust, he realized something. He didn't regret it. Not the door opening, not the pancakes, not any of it. Whatever came next, they'd handle it. Inside, his phone started buzzing again, calls and texts piling up faster than he could ignore them. The quiet life he'd built was cracking at the seams, and he had maybe 24 hours before it shattered completely. But for now, in this moment, Mia was safe, and the sun was shining, and he'd helped someone who needed it. That had to count for something. It was Monday morning when everything truly exploded. Noah had spent Sunday dodging calls and ignoring the growing pile of messages from numbers he didn't recognize. He'd kept Mia inside, away from the two reporters who'd camped out across the street with cameras. By Sunday night, they'd given up and left, and he'd allowed himself to hope the worst had passed. He should have known better. His phone rang at 6:47 a.m. Alara's name flashed on the screen. He'd never deleted her number from years ago. "Noah, I'm so sorry." He sat up in bed, instantly awake. What happened? Security footage. From the wedding venue. Someone leaked it to the press. Footage of what? Me. Getting into my car. The timestamp shows I left at 10:52 p.m. Your house is 17 minutes from the venue. They did the math. Noah rubbed his eyes. Alara, that doesn't prove anything. It proves I went somewhere immediately after calling off the wedding, and that somewhere was close to your address. Combined with the photo of me leaving your house the next morning, she trailed off. The story is everywhere, Noah, and it's not good. He pulled up a news site on his phone. The headline made his chest tight. Voss wedding scandal. CEO spent night with mystery man hours after calling off ceremony. The article was worse. It painted him as the reason she'd called off the wedding, suggested they'd been having an affair, implied that the whole thing was a calculated escape to be with her secret lover. There were quotes from sources close to the situation and company insiders saying the board was furious, that Marcus was devastated, that this could trigger a corporate crisis, and there were more photos. Someone had dug up old pictures from years ago, Noah and Alara talking at a construction site, both of them in hard hats, her laughing at something he'd said. The caption called it evidence of a long-term relationship. Noah, are you still there? Yeah? I'm here. I've issued a statement. I explained that you were an old friend, that I came to you in a moment of crisis, that there was nothing inappropriate about it. But they're not listening. They want a scandal, and I gave them one. This isn't your fault. Yes, it is. I should have thought about what showing up at your house would do to you. I was selfish and desperate, and I didn't consider... Stop. Noah's voice was firm. You came to my door asking for help. I said yes. Whatever happens because of that is on both of us, not just you. She was quiet for a moment. The board is calling an emergency meeting. They want me to address this publicly, to do damage control. My lawyer thinks I should deny everything, claim we barely know each other. But that's not true. No, it's not. Another pause. I have something I need to ask you, and you're absolutely allowed to say no. What is it? I want to offer you a job. Noah blinked. What? Director of Operations for our Community Development Division. It's a real position. We've been trying to fill it for months. You have the experience, the skills, the background. I was going to approach you about it anyway, before all this happened. Elara, well, I know how it looks. I know people will say it's a payoff or a cover story or proof that we're involved, but the truth is, you'd be perfect for this role, and I need people I can trust in my company. People who understand what it means to build something that lasts. Noah stood up and walked to the window. Across the street, a different reporter had taken up position, camera already pointed at his house. If I say yes, it makes everything worse. It looks like exactly what they're already accusing us of. And if you say no, you let them control your life out of fear. Either way, you're stuck dealing with this mess. At least this way, you'd have a job that pays well enough to give Mia the kind of future you want for her. She wasn't wrong. His carpentry work paid the bills, but barely. There was no college fund, no safety net. He'd made peace with that when he'd prioritized being present for Mia over career advancement. But if he was going to be dragged through the mud anyway, how much time do I have to decide? The board meeting is Wednesday. I'd like to announce your hiring then, not as a response to the scandal, but as a planned move. We can backdate the offer letter, show that this was in the works before the wedding. You'd lie to your board? I'd tell them the truth in a way they can accept. There's a difference. Noah thought about Mia, about the reporters outside, about the life he'd carefully built starting to crumble around him. Then he thought about Elara standing on his porch in a wedding dress, shaking and lost and trusting him to help. Send me the offer letters, he said. I'll look at it. Thank you, Noah. And I'm sorry for all of this. I know. After they hung up, he stood at the window for a long time, watching the reporter check his camera. His phone buzzed with another text from Jake. Dude, seriously, call me. He would, eventually. First, he had to figure out how to explain to his 7-year-old daughter why there were strange people taking pictures of their house. The offer letter arrived that afternoon via secure email. Noah read it 3 times, checking for catches or fine print. The salary was more than double what he made now. The benefits were extraordinary. The role itself was exactly the kind of work he'd left behind when he'd chosen to prioritize Mia. Meaningful, challenging, the kind of thing that actually helped communities instead of just making rich people richer. It was also a massive risk. He called the one person whose judgment he trusted completely. Noah Carter, you better have a good explanation for why my phone has been blowing up with calls asking if I know you. His sister Rachel didn't waste time with pleasantries. Long story, Noah said. I've got time, and you've got a lot of explaining to do. He told her everything. The knock on the door, Elara showing up in the wedding dress, the pancakes, the photos, the job offer. Rachel listened without interrupting, which was how he knew she was taking it seriously. So let me get this straight, she said when he finished. A billionaire CEO showed up at your house in the middle of the night. You let her stay over, and now she's offering you a 6-figure job. That's the summary, yeah. And you're actually considering taking it. I am. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. Okay, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Always. Do you have feelings for this woman? Noah opened his mouth to deny it automatically, then stopped. Did he? He barely knew Elara, not really. They'd had a handful of conversations years ago, and one very weird, very intense 12-hour period. That wasn't enough to build feelings on. Except he kept thinking about the way she'd looked in his kitchen, making pancakes in his flannel shirt. The way she'd listened to Mia talk about salamanders like it was the most important conversation in the world. The vulnerability in her voice when she'd said she didn't know where else to go. I don't know, he admitted. That's not a no. It's not a yes either. Noah. Rachel's voice gentled. I love you and I trust your judgment. But this situation is complicated in ways that could really hurt you and Mia. If you take this job, you're signing up for a level of scrutiny and pressure that you've spent years trying to avoid. I know. But maybe avoiding isn't the same as living. Maybe I've been so focused on keeping Mia safe that I forgot I'm allowed to take chances too. Taking chances is different from walking into a media firestorm. The firestorm is already here. I'm just deciding whether to run from it or walk through it. Rachel sighed. You've made up your mind, haven't you? I think I have. Then I'm here for you. Whatever you need, but Noah, be careful. With your job, with the media, and especially with her. I will. After he hung up, Noah pulled up the offer letter one more time. Then he hit reply and typed 3 words. I accept. Thanks. Wednesday arrived too fast. Noah had arranged for Rachel to watch Mia for the day. He didn't want her anywhere near what was about to happen. The board meeting was at 2 p.m. Alara had asked him to arrive at 1:30 to meet with her privately first. The Voss Industries building was downtown, all glass and steel and intimidating height. Noah had been in plenty of fancy buildings for work, but never as anything other than a contractor. Walking through the lobby in his one good suit, slightly too tight in the shoulders, slightly too worn at the cuffs, he felt like an imposter. Alara's assistant met him at the elevator. She was young, efficient, and completely professional as she led him to the executive floor. Ms. Voss is expecting you. Conference room 3. Alara was standing at the window when he walked in, looking out at the city below. She'd traded his sweatpants for a sharp navy suit, her hair pulled back severely, every inch the CEO. But when she turned to face him, her expression was all relief. You came. I said I would. I know, but I wasn't sure. After everything that's happened. She gestured to the empty conference table. Sit, please. He sat. She remained standing, pacing slightly. The board is going to ask you questions, she said. About us, about how we know each other, about why you're accepting this position. They'll try to trip you up to find inconsistencies. So what do you want me to say? The truth. We worked together years ago. We stayed in touch occasionally. When I posted about the job opening on LinkedIn 3 weeks ago, you reached out expressing interest. I thought you'd be a good fit. We had preliminary conversations, and I extended an offer before the wedding. The timing is coincidental. Noah raised an eyebrow. You posted about the job 3 weeks ago? Boos. I did. It's public record. What I didn't mention is that I thought of you specifically when I was writing the posting. But they don't need to know that part. This is a lot of careful truth-telling. Welcome to corporate leadership. She finally sat down across from him. I know this is strange. I know I'm asking you to walk into a situation that could get messy, but I meant what I said. You're genuinely qualified for this role, and I genuinely need someone I can trust. Bu işki basitan bir otan. And the fact that hiring me makes you look less impulsive about calling off the wedding? That's a side benefit I won't pretend doesn't matter. She met his eyes. But it's not the reason. The reason is that you're good at what you do, and you give a damn about doing it right. That's rare. Before Noah could respond, the door opened. A man in an expensive suit walked in, late 50s, gray hair, the kind of presence that suggested he was used to being the most important person in any room. Alara, I assume this is Mr. Carter? Jeffrey, this is Noah Carter. Noah, Jeffrey Hendricks, chairman of our board. Jeffrey extended a hand. Noah shook it, noting the assessing look in the older man's eyes. Mr. Carter, I understand you'll be joining us for the board meeting. If that's appropriate? Oh, it's more than appropriate. It's essential. Jeffrey's smile didn't reach his eyes. After all, you seem to be at the center of quite a bit of attention these days. The meeting was exactly as uncomfortable as Noah had anticipated. 12 board members sat around an enormous table, and every single one of them looked at him like he was a problem to be solved. Alara presented his hiring as matter-of-fact business, walking them through his qualifications and the timeline of the offer. Then the questions started. Mr. Carter, how exactly did you and Ms. Voss reconnect? Professional networking sites. I saw the job posting and reached out. EMD. Oh. And your previous relationship was purely professional? We worked together on a construction project 4 years ago. We had maybe a dozen conversations over 6 months. Yet she felt comfortable showing up at your home in the middle of the night? Noah kept his voice even. When someone you know needs help, you help them. That's how I was raised. How convenient that helping her resulted in a lucrative job offer. The job offer came first. Noah pulled out his phone, showing the email timestamp. I accepted the position before the wedding was even supposed to happen. That shut them up for a moment. Alara had been thorough in covering their tracks. Jeffrey leaned back in his chair. Mr. Carter, I'm going to be blunt. This situation is a PR nightmare. Regardless of the truth, the optics are terrible. Our stock has dropped 9% since Monday. Our stakeholders are concerned. Major partners are asking questions. Hiring you right now looks like either favoritism or proof of the affair rumors. Then don't hire me, Noah said simply. I didn't ask for this job to cause problems for the company. But you did accept it. I did. Because it's good work that I'm qualified to do. If that's not enough reason, then I'll withdraw my acceptance. He stood up, and he meant it. He was done being interrogated like a criminal. Noah, wait. Alara's voice was quiet but firm. She turned to the board. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. The easy way is you accept that I made a sound business decision in hiring someone qualified for a position we desperately need to fill. The hard way is I remind you that I'm the CEO of this company. I own controlling interest, and I don't need your approval for operational hires. Jeffrey's jaw tightened. Alara, I called off my wedding because it was the wrong choice for my life. That's personal, and it's none of this board's business. What is your business is whether I can lead this company effectively. So let me be clear. I can. I will. And I won't be paralyzed by scandal or speculation. Noah Carter is qualified, vetted, and hired. If any of you have a problem with that, you can bring it up at the next shareholder meeting. The room was silent. Noah had stopped halfway to the door, watching Alara face down 12 powerful people without flinching. Finally, Jeffrey nodded. Very well. Mr. Carter, welcome to Voss Industries. It didn't feel like a welcome. The press conference was scheduled for 4 p.m. Alara's publicist had written a statement, brief, professional, putting the wedding drama to bed, and moving forward with business updates. Noah watched from a monitor in a side office as Alara took the podium. She looked calm, controlled, every inch the leader her company needed. I want to address the speculation about my personal life head-on, she began. I called off my wedding because I realized I was marrying for the wrong reasons. That decision was mine alone, and it had nothing to do with anyone else. I apologize for any hurt or inconvenience it caused, particularly to Marcus Whitfield, who deserves better than the circus this has become. She paused, letting that sink in. As for the rumors about Noah Carter, they're exactly that. Rumors. Noah is a former colleague who I've asked to join Voss Industries in a leadership capacity because he's exceptionally qualified. The timeline of his hiring predates my wedding by several weeks. Any suggestion otherwise is false. A reporter shouted a question. But you did spend the night at his home. I sought temporary shelter with a friend during a difficult moment. That's the extent of it. And frankly, the fact that I have to explain seeking comfort from a friend says more about our cultural obsession with scandal than it does about my choices. Another question. What about the board's reaction? Why? The board and I are aligned in our commitment to moving Voss Industries forward, which is what I intend to do, starting now. This is the last time I'll be addressing my personal life in a professional capacity. Thank you. She walked off the stage without taking more questions. Noah watched the reporters erupt into chaos, shouting over each other. His phone buzzed, a text from Alara. How'd I do? He typed back, You didn't flinch. That took guts. I'm still shaking. Doesn't show. Good. A moment later, another text. Thank you for showing up today, for not running when it got ugly. Where would I run to? They already know where I live. She sent back a laughing emoji, and something in Noah's chest loosened. They were going to be okay. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. He just had to believe that. When he picked up Mia from Rachel's house that evening, his sister pulled him aside while Mia was gathering her things. I watched the press conference, she said. And I think you're in way over your head, but I also think you know that and you're doing it anyway. That's about right. Rachel hugged him tight. Just promise me you'll be careful. And remember that when this gets complicated, and it will, you've got people who love you no matter what. I promise. Driving home with Mia chattering in the back seat about her day with Aunt Rachel, Noah felt the weight of everything settling on his shoulders. He'd said yes to a job that would change their lives. He'd stood in front of a board of powerful people and held his ground. He'd watched Alara face down the entire media circus without breaking. And somewhere in all of that, without quite meaning to, he'd become part of her world. Whether that was a good thing or a terrible mistake, he'd find out soon enough. For now, he had Mia. He had a job, and he had tomorrow to figure out the rest. That would have to be enough. Noah's first day at Voss Industries started with a security badge that didn't work and a desk that hadn't been delivered yet. Classic, muttered the IT guy, a kid who looked barely 20 with a name tag that read Danny. He swiped Noah's badge through the reader 3 more times, each attempt ending with the same angry red beep. System says you don't exist. Story of my life, Noah said. Danny snorted. Yeah, well, give me 20 minutes and I'll make you real. In the meantime, you can wait in the lobby or... He glanced at his screen, then at Noah with sudden recognition. Oh, you're that guy. Which guy would that be? The one from the news, with Ms. Voss and the wedding thing. Danny had the decency to look embarrassed. Sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. It's fine. Everyone's thinking it anyway. For what it's worth, I don't think it's anybody's business. Danny turned back to his computer. Your badge should work now. Temporary desk is on the 14th floor, cubicle 14C. Your actual office isn't ready yet. Cubicle's fine. It wasn't fine. The 14th floor was an open-plan nightmare of glass partitions and hushed conversations that stopped the moment Noah stepped off the elevator. He could feel eyes on him as he navigated the maze of identical workspaces, his badge clipped to a suit jacket that still felt too tight. Cubicle 14C was squeezed between a filing cabinet and a wall of windows that looked out onto another building. Someone had left a welcome packet on the desk, standard corporate orientation materials, and a note written in precise handwriting. Welcome to the team. Coffee's in the break room. Courage is BYO. Patricia Liu, HR. Noah was reading through the employee handbook when a woman appeared at the edge of his cubicle. She was maybe 40, with dark hair pulled into a severe bun and the kind of expression that suggested she didn't suffer fools. Noah Carter? That's me. Patricia Liu. We spoke on the phone yesterday. She extended a hand, her grip firm and brief. I'm here to make sure your onboarding doesn't turn into a circus. How's it going so far? Badge didn't work. Desk is temporary. People are staring. The first 2 I can fix. The third is going to take time. She pulled up a chair from an empty cubicle. I'm going to be straight with you because I think you can handle it. You've walked into a hostile environment. Half the company thinks you slept your way into this job. The other half thinks Alara's lost her mind. Your job is to prove them both wrong. No pressure. Oh, there's plenty of pressure. But here's the thing. You actually are qualified for this position. I've seen your resume. Your work on the Riverside project 3 years ago was exceptional. The community center you helped design is still being used as a model for sustainable urban development. Patricia leaned forward. So my advice? Do the work. Do it well. Don't engage with the gossip. Don't defend yourself to people who've already made up their minds. And don't give anyone ammunition to use against you. What counts as ammunition? Closed-door meetings with Alara, private lunches, anything that looks personal instead of professional. I know it's not fair, but perception is reality here. Noah nodded slowly. Does Alara know you're telling me this? She's the one who asked me to. She wants you to succeed, and she knows the deck is stacked against you. Patricia stood. Your actual office should be ready by Thursday. Until then, keep your head down and start reviewing the project files I sent to your email. Questions? Jimas. Yeah. Why are you helping me? She smiled for the first time. Because I hate corporate politics. And I like people who actually know how to build things, instead of just talking about building things. Don't make me regret it. She was gone before he could respond. The morning passed in a blur of login credentials and policy documents. Noah was halfway through a presentation on community development strategies when his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Alara. New phone. Old one was compromised. How's day one? He typed back. Still employed. That's a win. Low bar, but I'll take it. Lunch at 1? Noah hesitated. Patricia's warning fresh in his mind. Then he typed, rain check, trying to keep things professional. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, smart. Dinner Thursday instead? My place. Need to discuss the Riverside expansion project, and I'd rather not do it where people can eavesdrop. That didn't sound professional either, but Noah couldn't figure out how to say no without explaining Patricia's warning. What time? 7. I'll send you the address. And Noah? Thank you for understanding. He wasn't sure he did understand, but he sent back a thumbs up anyway. The rest of the day was a crash course in Voss Industries politics. Noah sat in on 3 meetings where he was either ignored completely or treated like a mascot, present but not really participating. He took notes, asked careful questions, and tried to figure out who actually had power versus who just acted like they did. By 5 o'clock, his brain hurt, and his suit jacket was draped over the back of his chair in defeat. He was packing up when a man stopped by his cubicle. Tall, maybe 35, with the kind of perfect hair that suggested a standing appointment with an expensive stylist. Noah Carter, Derek Connolly, VP of Development. He didn't offer his hand. I wanted to introduce myself since we'll be working together. Good to meet you. See, I'm sure. Derek's smile was professional and empty. I have to say, I was surprised when Alara announced your hiring. We usually go through a much more rigorous vetting process for director-level positions. I went through 4 rounds of interviews. Of course, I'm sure you're very qualified. The way he said it made it clear he thought the opposite. I just wanted to let you know that I'll be keeping a close eye on the Community Development Division, making sure we maintain our standards. I'd expect nothing less. Derek's smile tightened. Great. Well, welcome aboard. I'm sure this will all work out exactly as planned. He walked away before Noah could parse whether that was a threat or just standard corporate passive aggression. Noah made it home by 6:30, exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with physical labor and everything to do with navigating other people's expectations. Mia launched herself at him the moment he walked through the door, and Rachel looked up from where she was stirring something on the stove. Rough day? Is it that obvious? You look like you've been wrestling sharks in a suit. Close enough. Noah hugged Mia, then set her down. Thanks for picking her up from school. Anytime. There's pasta on the stove and I made extra because I figured you'd be too tired to cook. Rachel wiped her hands on a towel. Also, there were 2 more reporters outside when I got here. I told them to leave or I'd call the cops. Did they leave? Eventually. But Noah, this isn't going away. You need to think about how you're going to handle it. I'm handling it by ignoring it and doing my job. That's not a long-term strategy. It's the only one I've got. Set. Rachel looked like she wanted to argue, but Mia was tugging on Noah's sleeve, demanding to know about his first day at the fancy building with the important people. He let her pull him to the kitchen table and tried to describe his day in 7-year-old terms while Rachel served pasta and gave him looks that said they'd be continuing this conversation later. Thursday arrived faster than Noah was ready for. His office was finally ready. A real office with a door and a window and enough space that he didn't feel like he was working in a cardboard box. It was on the 17th floor, far enough from the executive suite that it didn't look like favoritism, but nice enough that it was clearly a senior position. Noah spent the morning in back-to-back meetings about the Riverside expansion project, a plan to redevelop a struggling neighborhood into a mixed-use community with affordable housing, green spaces, and local business support. It was ambitious and complicated and exactly the kind of work he'd left behind when he'd chosen to prioritize Mia. Now he was doing both, and he wasn't sure how to balance them. At 6:30, he texted Rachel to let her know he'd be late. She sent back, "Date with the boss? Work meeting? At her house?" "It's complicated. Everything with you is complicated lately." She wasn't wrong. Ilara's building was in the kind of neighborhood where doormen wore actual uniforms, and the lobby had fresh flowers that probably cost more than Noah's monthly grocery budget. The doorman checked his ID against a list, then directed him to the penthouse elevator with the polite efficiency of someone who'd been trained not to ask questions. The elevator opened directly into Ilara's apartment. She was waiting in the entryway, barefoot in jeans and a simple white shirt, her hair down around her shoulders. She looked younger like this, less intimidating. "You found it okay. Your doorman is very thorough." "Sorry, security's been paranoid since the wedding thing." She gestured him inside. "Come in. I ordered Thai food because I can't cook to save my life, despite what those pancakes might have suggested. That was literally the only thing my grandmother taught me before she died." The apartment was enormous, floor-to-ceiling windows showing a city view that belonged in a movie, furniture that was clearly expensive but somehow still comfortable-looking, art on the walls that Noah suspected was original. It was beautiful and impersonal, like a hotel suite designed by someone with excellent taste and no actual personality. Ilara led him to a dining room where files were spread across a table clearly meant for dinner parties. "I figured we could eat and work at the same time. Hope that's okay?" "Works for me." They spent the first hour going through project timelines and budget projections, eating pad thai straight from the containers while debating construction schedules and community engagement strategies. It was the first time since Noah had started that he'd felt like he was actually using his brain instead of just surviving. "The key issue is trust," Ilara said, circling a section on the community feedback report. "Riverside has been promised development before and gotten nothing but displacement. They're not going to believe us just because we show up with pretty renderings." "Us das se." "So we don't lead with renderings, we lead with listening." "Explain." Noah pulled out his phone and showed her photos from a project he'd worked on years ago. This was a neighborhood in similar shape. We spent the first 3 months just talking to people. What did they need? What did they want to keep? What were they afraid of losing? Then we built the plan around their answers instead of imposing our vision. Ilara studied the photos. How long did the whole project take? 4 years. But it's still standing, still serving the community, still owned by the people who live there. That's not something you can rush. "I don't have 4 years. The board wants results in 18 months. Then they're going to get a project that looks good in press releases and falls apart in 5 years. Noah met her eyes. "You asked me here because you wanted someone who knows how to build things that last. That takes time." She was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "You're right. I'll manage the board. You focus on doing it right." They worked for another hour, and somewhere in the middle of debating green space allocation, Noah realized he was enjoying himself. This was the part of his old career he'd missed. The problem solving, the creative challenge, the sense that what he was doing might actually matter. "Can I ask you something?" Ilara said suddenly. "Sure, yes. Why did you leave this? You were good at it. You could have kept climbing, made real money, built a whole career. But you walked away to do carpentry work." Noah leaned back in his chair. "Mia's mom left when she was 2. Just decided motherhood wasn't for her and disappeared. I had full custody, but I was working 60-hour weeks. Barely saw my kid except on weekends. I had a nanny who knew Mia better than I did." He paused. "Then one day Mia fell at preschool and skinned her knee. The teacher called the nanny, not me, because I was never the one who showed up. And I realized I was choosing a career over my daughter. So I chose differently." That must have been hard. It was the easiest decision I ever made, and the scariest. He met her eyes. "Why did you call off your wedding?" Ilara looked down at the files scattered across the table. "Because I was standing in that bridal suite looking at myself in the mirror, and I couldn't remember the last time I'd made a choice that was actually mine. Every decision in my life has been about the company. What's good for the brand, what the board wants, what the shareholders expect, even Marcus." She laughed without humor. "Especially Marcus. He was the perfect choice on paper. Right family, right connections, right image. But I didn't love him. And he didn't love me, not really. We loved what we represented to each other. It was a merger disguised as a marriage. She looked up. I got to the door of that church, and I thought, if I walk through here, this is it. This is the rest of my life. Doing what's expected, being who everyone needs me to be, never asking if any of it is what I actually want. So you ran, right? So I ran to the one person I could think of who'd built a life based on what actually mattered instead of what looked good from the outside. She smiled slightly. Probably not fair to put that on you. I don't mind. They held each other's gaze for a moment too long. Noah looked away first, gathering up papers that didn't need gathering. I should get going. It's late, and I need to relieve Rachel from kid duty. Of course. Alara stood, walking him to the elevator. Noah? Thank you. For tonight. For understanding why I needed to do this away from the office. No problem. The elevator doors opened. He stepped inside, then turned back. Alara? That thing you said about making choices that are actually yours? You're doing that now. With the project, with how you're handling the board. That counts for something. She smiled, genuine this time. Thanks. That helps. The doors closed between them, and Noah rode down to the lobby, wondering when exactly he'd crossed the line from professional courtesy to actually caring what happened to her. The weekend brought new complications. Noah took Mia to the park on Saturday morning, trying to maintain some semblance of their normal routine. They were 20 minutes into playing on the swings when a woman approached with a camera phone. Excuse me, are you Noah Carter? He knew what was coming, but he couldn't exactly run. Can I help you? I'm with the Daily Observer. I was hoping to ask you a few questions about your relationship with Alara Voss. No comment. Is it true you've moved into a luxury apartment she's paying for? What? No, I live in the same house I've lived in for 5 years. So you're denying reports of financial impropriety? I'm saying you're making things up. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm trying to spend time with my daughter. He scooped up Mia and headed for the car, the woman following them with her phone camera recording. Mia looked scared, clinging to his neck. Daddy? Who was that lady? Nobody important, sweetheart. But she was important enough that by Sunday morning, there was a new article online. Voss's mystery man, living large on company dime? The story was full of unsubstantiated claims and sources familiar with the situation, saying Noah had been promised stock options and a company car and a dozen other things that weren't true. His phone rang. Alara. I saw the article. It's garbage. I know. But it's garbage that's going to make your life harder. I'm issuing a correction through our PR team, and I'm having legal send them a cease and desist. That'll just make it worse. Make it look like we're hiding something. We're not hiding anything. I know that. You know that. But every time you defend me, it feeds the narrative that we're involved. Alara was quiet on the other end. So what do you want me to do? Nothing. Let me handle it. How? By doing my job well enough that the story changes from guy who slept his way to the top to guy who actually knows what he's doing. But I can't do that if you keep fighting my battles for me. Another pause. You're right. I'm sorry. I just hate watching them tear you apart over something that's my fault. It's not your fault you needed help, and it's not your fault I said yes. After they hung up, Noah stared at his phone for a long time. Then he opened his laptop and started drafting a detailed plan for the Riverside project. Something so thorough and well-researched that nobody could claim he was coasting on connections. He worked through the weekend, barely sleeping, fueled by coffee and stubbornness. By Monday morning, he had a 60-page proposal with community engagement strategies, timeline projections, budget breakdowns, and risk assessments. He walked into the office at 7 a.m. and sent it to Derek Connolly with a simple subject line: Riverside expansion, initial proposal. Derek's response came an hour later. We should discuss this. My office, 10 a.m. The meeting was supposed to be just the two of them. Instead, Noah walked into Derek's office to find 4 other VPs waiting, all of them looking at him with varying degrees of skepticism. Noah, thanks for coming. Derek gestured to an empty chair. I shared your proposal with the team. We have some questions. For the next 2 hours, they grilled him on every aspect of the plan. Why this approach instead of that one? How did he justify the extended timeline? What made him think the community would actually participate? Some of the questions were legitimate. Some were clearly designed to trip him up, to find gaps in his knowledge or flaws in his reasoning. Noah answered them all. He pulled up data, cited case studies, explained his methodology. When they challenged his budget projections, he showed them comparable projects and where he'd built in contingencies. When they questioned the community engagement timeline, he explained exactly why trust couldn't be rushed. Slowly, the hostility in the room shifted to something else. Not quite respect, but maybe acknowledgement that he wasn't completely incompetent. This is actually solid work, admitted one of the VPs, a woman named Janet who'd been particularly harsh in her questioning. I'm still not sold on the timeline, but the approach is sound. The timeline is negotiable, so Noah said. The approach isn't. If we want this to work long term, we have to build it with the community, not for them. Derek leaned back in his chair. I'll be honest, Carter. I was expecting to find holes in this big enough to drive a truck through. Instead, he tapped the proposal on his desk. Instead, I'm looking at one of the better development plans I've seen in the last year. Well done. It wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement, but coming from Derek, it was something. Noah left the meeting feeling like maybe, possibly, he was starting to turn the tide. That feeling lasted until Wednesday. He was in his office reviewing construction permits when Patricia from HR appeared at his door, her expression grim. We need to talk. Close the door. Noah's stomach dropped. Nothing good ever came from HR asking you to close the door. Patricia sat down and pulled out her tablet. Security footage from the lobby, from last Thursday evening. She turned the screen toward him. The video showed Noah entering the building, checking in with the doorman, heading toward the elevators. Okay, Noah said slowly. I was meeting with Alara about the Riverside project. She cleared it with, I know, that's not the problem. Patricia swiped to a different video. This is from the parking garage. Same night, 20 minutes after you arrived. The footage showed a different man entering through the garage entrance. Marcus Whitfield, Alara's ex-fiancé. Noah recognized him from the news coverage. I don't understand. What does he have to do with, He was there to see Alara. Apparently they had a scheduled meeting about dissolving some joint investments. Patricia's expression was tight. But the timing is bad, Noah. Really bad. You go up to her apartment at 7. He shows up at 7:20. You leave at 9:15. He leaves at 9:45. So, we were working on completely different things in completely different rooms. I never even saw him. I believe you, but somebody leaked this footage to the press, and the story they're spinning is that Alara is juggling both of you, that the whole wedding cancellation was because she couldn't choose. Noah felt sick. That's insane. Doesn't matter. It's already out there. The story breaks in about... Patricia checked her watch. 20 minutes. I wanted to warn you before you got blindsided. Does Alara know? She's in an emergency board meeting right now. They're not happy. I need to talk to her. That's the last thing you should do. Any contact between you two right now just makes it worse. Patricia stood. I'm sorry, Noah, I know this isn't fair, but my advice? Go home, stay off social media, let the PR team handle it, and for the love of everything, do not respond to any reporters. Noah grabbed his jacket and left before anyone could stop him. His phone was already blowing up, texts from Rachel, from Jake, from numbers he didn't recognize. He ignored all of them and drove straight to Mia's school. He was early for pickup, but he didn't care. He sat in the parking lot with his hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe. This was getting out of control. No matter what he did, no matter how hard he worked or how professional he tried to be, the narrative kept twisting into something ugly. And now Marcus was involved, which meant the story had another angle, another way to paint Alara as reckless and Noah as either a fool or a player. His phone rang. Alara's new number. Don't say anything, she said the moment he answered. I'm calling from my car. No one can hear us. Patricia told me about the footage. Yes. It's a nightmare. The board is talking about asking me to step down temporarily. They think I'm a liability. Are you? The question came out harsher than he'd meant it. Alara was quiet for a long moment. I don't know anymore. Maybe they're right. Maybe I've let this spiral so far out of control that the best thing I can do is remove myself from the equation. You don't believe that. How do you know, Spaye? Because if you did, you wouldn't be fighting. You'd have resigned already and saved yourself the headache. She laughed, but it sounded pained. I keep making things worse for you. Every time I try to fix it, it gets messier. Then stop trying to fix it. Let it be messy. Easy for you to say. No, it's not. It's terrifying. But maybe that's the point. Maybe we can't control what people think or what stories they tell. We can only control what we do next. And what do we do next? Noah watched parents starting to arrive for school pickup. Normal people with normal problems, not being stalked by cameras or accused of corporate scandals. We do our jobs, he said. We work on Riverside. We prove that this thing between us, whatever it is, isn't about romance or favoritism. It's about building something that matters. Is that what this is? Something that matters? He knew she wasn't just talking about the project anymore. And he knew he should deflect, should keep things professional, should protect both of them from whatever this feeling was that kept growing despite his best efforts to ignore it. Instead, he told her the truth. Yeah, I think it is. Alara's breath caught on the other end of the line. No, I have to go. Mia's school is letting out. Okay. Can we talk later? We probably shouldn't. I know. But will you anyway? He watched Mia emerge from the school building, her backpack bouncing as she skipped toward the parking lot. Yeah, he said quietly. I will. He hung up before either of them could say anything else they'd regret. That night, after Mia was asleep, Noah sat on his back porch with a beer he wasn't drinking and tried to figure out what he was doing. He'd taken this job to give Mia a better future, to prove he could handle the pressure, to show that he wasn't just some guy who got lucky. But somewhere along the way, it had become about more than that. It had become about Alara, the way she looked when she was talking about work she cared about, the vulnerability beneath her CEO armor, the fact that she'd trusted him enough to show up at his door when her whole life was falling apart. He was in trouble, the kind of trouble that came from caring about someone you had no business caring about, in a situation that was already complicated enough to sink them both. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, but he knew who it was. I can't sleep. Keep thinking about what you said, about letting it be messy. He typed back. And I think you're right. I think I've spent so long trying to control everything that I forgot how to just be. How to let things happen without managing them to death. That's scary, terrifying, but also kind of freeing. Noah smiled despite everything. Yeah, kind of freeing. Thank you. For answering when I called. For not giving up on this job even though it's been a disaster from day one. It hasn't all been disaster. The Riverside proposal was good. It was brilliant. Derek told me they're moving forward with it. Really? Really? You did that. Not me. You. Noah let that sink in. Maybe Patricia had been right. Maybe the way through this was to do the work, to prove himself through results instead of explanations. Get some sleep, Alara. Tomorrow's going to be another long one. For both of us. Good night, Noah. Good night. He sat on the porch until his beer went warm and the sky started to lighten with pre-dawn gray. And somewhere in those quiet hours, he made a decision. He was going to see this through. Not just the job, not just the project, but whatever this thing with Alara was becoming. He was going to stop running from it, stop trying to make it fit into neat professional categories. He was going to let it be messy. And hope like hell, they both survived it. The scandal broke on a Tuesday morning at 6:43 a.m., 17 minutes before Noah's alarm was set to go off. His phone started vibrating on the nightstand with the insistent rhythm of someone who wouldn't stop calling until he answered. He grabbed it without opening his eyes, his voice rough with sleep. What? Turn on the news. Rachel's voice was tight. Right now. Noah sat up, suddenly awake. What happened? Just turn it on. Channel 7. He stumbled to the living room and grabbed the remote. The television flickered to life mid-sentence. a news anchor with perfect hair and a grave expression staring directly into the camera. Footage obtained exclusively by this station appears to show Voss Industries CEO Ilara. Voss entering the residence of director Noah Carter late Sunday evening. The timestamp indicates she arrived at 11:17 p.m. and didn't leave until after 2 a.m. Monday morning. The screen cut to grainy security camera footage. Noah recognized his street immediately. The angle was from across the road, probably from a neighbor's doorbell camera. The video showed Ilara's car pulling up, Ilara getting out in casual clothes, looking around nervously before walking up to his front door. The footage jumped ahead, showing her leaving hours later. This latest development comes amid ongoing speculation about the nature of their relationship. The anchor continued. A relationship both parties have repeatedly insisted is purely professional. Representatives for Ms. Voss and Mr. Carter were not available for comment at the time of this broadcast. Noah's stomach turned to ice. Sunday night. She'd texted him around 11 saying she couldn't sleep, that she needed to talk to someone who wasn't on her payroll or her board. He'd said yes without thinking, without considering what it would look like if anyone saw her there. They'd sat in his kitchen drinking tea until 2 in the morning, talking about everything except work. About her childhood, about his marriage that had ended before it really began, about the weight of expectations and the fear of failing people who depended on you. It had felt necessary, cathartic, important. Now it looked like exactly what everyone had been accusing them of all along. His phone rang again. This time it was Patricia. "Please tell me you have a good explanation for this," she said without preamble. "She came over to talk. That's it. We talked. For 3 hours? At midnight?" She was having a rough night. I wasn't going to turn her away. This. Patricia's sigh was long and heavy. "Noah, I've been defending you to HR for weeks, telling them you're professional, that the media is blowing things out of proportion, that there's nothing inappropriate happening, and now there's video evidence of your boss visiting your home in the middle of the night. Because she needed a friend. Then she should have found a friend who doesn't work for her. Do you understand how this looks? The board's already calling for an emergency meeting. They want both of you suspended pending an investigation into workplace misconduct." Noah gripped the phone tighter. "There's no misconduct. We're not sleeping together. We're not even—" He stopped, not sure how to finish that sentence. What were they? Not nothing. That much was becoming painfully clear. But not what everyone assumed either. "It doesn't matter what you are or aren't," Patricia said. "It matters what it looks like. And it looks bad, Noah. Really bad." After she hung up, Noah stood in his living room in his pajama pants and a t-shirt that had seen better days, staring at the television where they were now showing old photos of him and Ilara from construction site inspections 4 years ago, drawing red circles and arrows like they were building a conspiracy theory. Mia appeared in the hallway, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy, why are you watching TV so early?" He shut it off quickly. "Just checking the weather, sweetheart. Go get dressed for school." But she was already looking at him with that too perceptive expression kids got when they knew something was wrong. "Are you in trouble?" "No, baby. Everything's fine. You look sad." He crouched down to her level. "I'm just tired. But I'm okay. I promise." She hugged him tight around the neck, and for a moment he let himself just be her dad, not the guy whose face was about to be plastered all over the internet alongside salacious headlines. His phone buzzed with a text. "Ilara, I'm so sorry. This is my fault. I should never have come over." He typed back. "You needed someone. I was there. That's not wrong. It is when it costs you your job. I still have my job. Not for long. Board meeting at 9. They're going to make me choose, you or my position as CEO." Noah stared at that message for a long time. Then he called her. She answered on the first ring. "Noah, don't pick me." "What?" "When they make you choose, don't pick me. Keep your job. Fire me if you have to." "Are you insane? I'm not firing you over this." "Then they'll force you out. And where does that leave anyone? The company loses a good CEO. I lose my job anyway, and we both look guilty as hell." Noah kept his voice low, aware of Mia getting dressed in the next room. "But if you fire me now, you prove to the board that you're willing to make hard choices. You keep your position. and I go back to carpentry work, which is what I was doing 6 weeks ago anyway. Bushpo. No. Her voice was fierce. I'm not sacrificing you to save my career. That's not who I want to be. Sometimes being a leader means making choices that suck. Don't quote my own management philosophy back at me. She sounded like she was crying, or trying not to. I dragged you into this mess. I showed up at your house in a wedding dress. I hired you when I knew it would cause problems. I kept coming to you when I should have kept my distance. Every single time, I chose what I needed over what was smart. And now you're paying the price. I made my own choices, Alara, every single one. That doesn't make it fair, Dane. No, Noah agreed, but it makes it real. She was quiet for a moment. He could hear her breathing, ragged and uneven. What if I don't want to choose? She said, finally. What if I tell the board to go to hell and stand by both, stand by you? Then you'll lose everything you've built. And for what? For me? Maybe for me. Maybe because I'm tired of letting other people dictate my life. Maybe because for once I want to make a choice based on what's right instead of what's strategic. Set. Noah closed his eyes. Alara, I have to go. The lawyers are here. But Noah, thank you for not hating me. I could never hate you. The line went quiet, both of them breathing into the silence between whatever this was and whatever they were too scared to name. I'll call you after the meeting, she said. Okay. She hung up. Noah sat on his couch until Mia emerged fully dressed, her backpack already on, asking if they could stop for donuts on the way to school because it was Tuesday, and Tuesday was donut day at the shop near her school. He said yes, because what else could he do? Life kept moving forward even when it felt like everything was falling apart. The donut shop was mercifully free of reporters. Noah bought Mia her favorite chocolate glazed and got himself a coffee that tasted like cardboard, but at least was hot. They sat at the small table by the window, and Mia swung her legs while she ate, getting chocolate on her nose. Daddy? Yeah? Is Alara your girlfriend? Noah nearly choked on his coffee. What? No. Why would you? Eat. Emma's mom has a boyfriend, and he comes over at night sometimes. Emma says that means they're dating. Mia licked chocolate off her fingers. You said Alara came over Sunday night. That doesn't mean we're not. Noah rubbed his face. Alara and I are friends. That's all. But you like her. It's complicated. You always say that. Mia took another bite of her donut. I think you should be her boyfriend. She's nice and she makes you smile different. Smile different how? Oh, like you mean it. Not the smile you do when you're tired, but pretending you're not. Out of the mouths of 7-year-olds, Noah reached across the table and wiped chocolate off her chin. Even if I did like her that way, which I'm not saying I do, it wouldn't be that simple. There are rules about bosses and people who work for them. That's a dumb rule. Well, sometimes rules are there for good reasons, said. And sometimes they're dumb, Mia insisted with the confidence of childhood. If you like someone and they like you and you're both nice to each other, that should be enough. Noah wished it were that easy. He wished feelings and timing and circumstances could just align into something that made sense. But life didn't work that way, especially not his life, especially not right now. He dropped Mia at school with an extra long hug that made her squirm and complained that he was embarrassing her in front of her friends. Then he sat in his truck in the parking lot trying to decide what to do next. Going to the office seemed like a bad idea. Staying home seemed cowardly. He was paralyzed between options, watching other parents drive away to their normal jobs with their normal problems. His phone rang. Derek Connolly. Carter, where are you? Handling some personal things. I'll be in later. Don't bother. Security's been instructed to deny you building access pending the investigation. Noah's grip tightened on the steering wheel. I haven't even been formally accused of anything. Said Shiba. You've been accused of plenty, just not officially yet. Derek's voice was almost sympathetic. Almost. Look, for what it's worth, I actually believe nothing happened. I think you're just stupid enough to have let her come over for a friendly chat without thinking about the optics. But belief doesn't matter here. The company has to protect itself. From what? Me and Alara having a conversation? From the appearance of executive misconduct, from shareholder lawsuits, from the stock price dropping another 15% because our CEO can't keep her personal life separate from corporate decisions. Derek paused. They're going to offer you a severance package. Take it. Walk away clean. It's better than what's coming if you fight this. And what's coming? A very public investigation, depositions, lawyers digging through every text message, every email, every interaction you and Alara have had since you started. Your daughter dragged through the press. Is that what you want? Of course not. Then take the severance. Go back to your old life. Forget this ever happened. Derek hung up before Noah could respond. Noah sat in the truck feeling the walls close in. They were going to make him the sacrificial lamb. Paint him as the inappropriate employee who'd taken advantage of his CEO's moment of vulnerability. Never mind that she was the one who'd shown up at his door. Never mind that every choice had been mutual. The narrative was already written, and he was cast as the villain or the victim depending on which version sold more papers. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Marcus Whitfield. We need to talk. Noah stared at the message for a long moment. Then, against every instinct telling him this was a terrible idea, he typed back, when and where? The response came immediately. Coffee shop on 5th and Market, 1 hour. Marcus was already there when Noah arrived, sitting at a corner table with his back to the wall like he was worried about surveillance. He looked older than in his photos, early 40s maybe, with the kind of grooming that suggested personal stylists and expensive barbers. He stood when Noah approached, extending a hand. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. Noah shook his hand briefly. What do you want? To talk. Off the record. No lawyers, no press, just two men who've both been caught in Alara's orbit. Noah sat down across from him, wary. I don't think we have much to talk about. I think we have everything to talk about. Marcus folded his hands on the table. I loved her, you know, or I thought I did. Looking back now, I'm not sure I knew her well enough to love her, but I wanted to. I wanted the life we were supposed to build together. I'm sorry it didn't work out. Are you? Marcus's smile was bitter. You're the reason it didn't work out. She called off our wedding because of you. That's not true. She called it off because it was wrong for her. And then she ran straight to you, at midnight, in her wedding dress. Marcus leaned forward. I'm not an idiot, Carter. I know what that means. It means she needed a friend, someone who wasn't part of her world, someone who didn't want anything from her except to help. And now you work for her, making 6 figures, with an office and a title and access to everything I spent 3 years trying to build with her. Marcus's voice was controlled, but his hands were clenched. So forgive me if I don't buy the innocent friend story. Noah met his eyes. Believe whatever you want. I know what happened and what didn't happen. Do you? Marcus pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. The screen showed a series of text messages between him and Alara, dated from the past few weeks. Noah didn't want to read them, but his eyes caught fragments anyway. I miss you sometimes. Is that crazy? Marcus, please don't do this. Do you ever think about what we could have been if you'd just given us a real chance? I think about it, but it doesn't change anything. It could, if you wanted it to. Noah pushed the phone back across the table. Why are you showing me this? Because I want you to understand something. She's confused. She's been confused since the moment she walked away from that church. She doesn't know what she wants. Not really. She just knows she doesn't want the life we had planned. Marcus pocketed his phone. But that doesn't mean she wants you either. I never said she did. Oh, you didn't have to. I saw the security footage from her building. You went up to her apartment for a business meeting and stayed for hours. You think that's normal? You think that's just friendly? I think it's none of your business. It became my business when she started using you as an excuse not to come back to me. Marcus's composure cracked slightly. I'm not the enemy here, Carter. I'm just a man who lost something important, and I'm trying to understand why. Help me understand. What does she see in you that she didn't see in me? The question was genuine beneath the anger. Noah found himself answering honestly. I don't know. Maybe someone who doesn't need her to be anything other than who she is. Maybe someone who's not part of the world that's been suffocating her. He paused. Or maybe nothing. Maybe I'm just convenient. Do you believe that? I don't know what I believe anymore. Now, Marcus was quiet for a moment, studying him. They're going to destroy you, you know. The board, the press, the whole machine. They need someone to blame for this mess, and you're the easiest target. Alara will try to protect you, but she can't. Not without losing everything. So what are you suggesting? Walk away. Take whatever severance they're offering and disappear. Go back to your life, raise your daughter, forget any of this ever happened. Marcus leaned back. Because if you stay, if you keep fighting for this job or for her or for whatever you think this is, you'll lose. And worse, you'll drag her down with you. Noah stood up. Thanks for the advice. Carter. Marcus caught his arm as he turned to leave. I know you probably don't believe this, but I don't want to see her hurt. Whatever my feelings about how things ended, I still care about what happens to her. And right now, you're the biggest threat to her career and her reputation. If you care about her at all, you'll do the right thing. Noah pulled his arm free. The right thing would have been not showing up at my door in the first place. But she did. And I let her in. And now we both have to live with where that choice took us. He left Marcus sitting at the table and walked out into the morning sun, feeling more confused than before. The logical part of his brain knew Marcus was right. Walking away was safer, cleaner, better for everyone involved. But the part of him that had sat in his kitchen with Alara until 2 a.m, talking about dreams and fears and the weight of pretending, that part couldn't imagine just letting go. His phone rang as he reached his truck. Alara, the meeting's over. And? They want me to suspend you pending investigation. I refused. I told them if they didn't trust my judgment, then they should replace me as CEO. But I wasn't throwing you under the bus for optics. Her voice was shaking. Jeffrey gave me 24 hours to reconsider. Alara, that's not... You can't risk your job for me. Watch me. This is insane. Probably, but I'm tired of doing the sensible thing. I'm tired of sacrificing people to save face. And I'm especially tired of watching you get crucified for showing me basic human decency. Noah leaned against his truck. I just had coffee with Marcus. You what? He texted me. Said we needed to talk. So we talked. What did he say? That you're confused. That I'm making things worse for you. That the right thing to do is walk away. Noah paused. He's not wrong. He doesn't get to decide what's right for me, and neither do you. Alara's voice softened. Where are you right now? Parking lot, just left the coffee shop. Can you come to my place? I need to see you, to talk face to face instead of through phones and lawyers and all this noise. Alara, every time we meet somewhere it ends up on the news. Then let it. I don't care anymore. I'm so tired of caring what people think. Noah closed his eyes, feeling the pull of her voice, the magnetic force of whatever this thing between them was. What are we doing? Really? I don't know, but I think we need to figure it out. Together. He should say no. He should tell her this was exactly the kind of decision that would sink them both. Instead, he heard himself say, I'll be there in 20 minutes. The drive across town felt both too short and endless. Noah rehearsed what he'd say, how he'd explain that they needed to step back, be smart, protect what they could still salvage. But the moment Alara opened her apartment door and he saw her face, exhausted and defiant and scared all at once, every planned speech evaporated. Hi, she said. Hi. They stood in her doorway like teenagers on a first date, neither quite sure how to proceed. Finally, Alara stepped back to let him in. Her apartment looked different in daylight, less like a movie set and more like a very expensive cage. Everything was perfect, and nothing looked lived in. Even the books on the shelves seemed arranged by color rather than read and loved. I keep thinking about what my life would look like if I'd gone through with the wedding, Alara said, standing by the window. I'd be on my honeymoon right now, Maldives. 2 weeks of pretending everything was fine while Marcus answered work emails and I smiled for photos we'd post on social media to prove how happy we were. You don't know it would have been like that. Yes, I do. Because that's what every other vacation we took was like. That's what our entire relationship was like, performing happiness instead of actually feeling it. She turned to face him. And then I show up at your house, and you make me pancakes with your daughter, and it's so normal and real and everything I've been missing that I can't stop wanting more of it. Noah's chest felt tight. Alara, I know this is a disaster. I know we've made every wrong choice possible. I know the board is probably going to force me out, and you're going to lose your job, and we're both going to end up as cautionary tales about workplace boundaries. She crossed the room to stand in front of him. But I also know that I haven't felt this alive in years. That when I'm with you, I remember what it's like to be a person instead of just a position. And I don't want to give that up, even if it's stupid, even if it costs me everything. You don't mean that. Don't tell me what I mean. Her eyes were fierce. I'm so sick of people telling me what I should want, what I should feel, what decisions I should make for the good of the company, or my reputation, or the stock price. For once in my life, I want to choose something just because it's what I want, even if it's messy, even if it's wrong. Noah stood there, every rational thought screaming at him to walk away, and felt himself drowning in the space between what made sense and what felt true. What are you saying? I'm saying I have feelings for you, real ones, not strategic, not convenient, just real. And I know that's the worst possible thing I could admit right now, but I'm done pretending. She took a breath. So I need to know, is this just me? Am I reading something into late-night conversations and work meetings that isn't actually there? Because if I am, tell me now. Tell me I'm an idiot and this is all in my head, and I'll accept the board's decision and you'll take the severance and we'll both move on. Noah felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff with the ground crumbling beneath his feet. One word would pull him back to safety. One word would send him over the edge into free fall. He chose the cliff. It's not just you. Alara's breath hitched. It's not? No. I've been trying to convince myself it was professional, that I was just being a good colleague or friend or whatever lie I could sell myself. But the truth is, he ran a hand through his hair. The truth is, I think about you all the time. When I'm working, when I'm with Mia, when I'm lying in bed at 3 a.m. trying to sleep. I think about the way you looked making pancakes in my kitchen. The way you listen to my daughter like she's the most interesting person in the world. The way you fight for what you believe in, even when it would be easier to give up. Noah, and I know this is impossible. I know the timing is terrible and the circumstances are worse, and there's no scenario where this doesn't blow up in our faces. But you asked me for the truth, and that's it. That's the truth. They stood 2 feet apart in her perfect apartment with the city sprawling below them, and the air felt charged with everything they'd been trying not to say for weeks. So what do we do? Alara's voice was barely above a whisper. I don't know. Tell me what you want. I want to stop being careful. I want to stop second-guessing every conversation and every meeting and every text message. I want... She didn't finish the sentence. She closed the distance between them instead, and when her lips met his, Noah felt every careful plan, every rational thought, every good intention shatter like glass. The kiss was desperate and uncertain, and nothing like the perfect movie moment it should have been. It was 2 people who'd been holding back too long finally admitting they couldn't anymore. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, reality came crashing back. We can't, Noah said, even though every part of him wanted to ignore that fact. I know. This makes everything worse. I know that too. Alara rested her forehead against his. But I'm not sorry. You should be. We both should be. Probably, but I'm not. Noah pulled back just enough to see her face. The board's going to crucify us when they find out. Oh, they were already going to crucify us. At least now there's actually something to crucify us for. She smiled, sad and wry. Besides, I have 24 hours before I have to give Jeffrey my answer. That's 24 hours we don't have to think about consequences. That's not how consequences work. Then we'll deal with them tomorrow. But right now, in this moment, can we just be 2 people who found something real in the middle of all this chaos? Just for a little while? Noah knew he should leave. He knew every second he stayed was another nail in both their coffins. But when Alara took his hand and led him to the couch, when she curled up against his side like she'd been doing it for years instead of for the first time, He couldn't bring himself to walk away. They sat there for hours, talking about everything and nothing, about Mia's upcoming school play and Alara's complicated relationship with her mother, about the house Noah wanted to build someday, and the nonprofit Alara dreamed of starting when she finally escaped the corporate world, about moments they'd each felt most themselves and times they'd felt like frauds. And somewhere in those hours, Noah realized that this wasn't just attraction or proximity or rebellion against impossible circumstances. This was real. Messy and complicated and probably doomed, but real. His phone buzzed around 6. Rachel, where are you? Mia's worried. You were supposed to pick her up an hour ago. Noah shot upright. I forgot, Mia. I have to go. He was halfway to the door before Alara caught his arm. Noah, wait. Mom. I can't. My daughter is waiting and I completely forgot about pickup and I know, I understand. But before you go, she kissed him again, quick and fierce. Tomorrow. Whatever happens with the board, whatever decision I make, we figure this out together, okay? Okay. He ran for the elevator, his mind already racing ahead to what excuse he'd give Rachel, how he'd explain this to Mia. By the time he reached his truck, he had 6 missed calls and a text from his sister that was just a string of question marks. He called her from the parking lot. I'm sorry. I lost track of time. I'm on my way. Where were you? It's complicated. Noah, I swear to all that's holy, if you say it's complicated one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. Where were you, Aunt? With Alara. Rachel was silent for a beat. Please tell me you didn't do what I think you did. Depends on what you think I did. Noah, I have to go. I'll explain later. Just tell Mia I'm sorry and I'll be there in 15 minutes. He hung up before she could lecture him, broke every speed limit getting to Rachel's house, and found Mia sitting on the front steps looking small and worried. Daddy! She ran to him and he scooped her up, holding her tight. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. I got caught up in something and I lost track of time. Aunt Rachel said you were being irresponsible. Aunt Rachel was right. Mia pulled back to look at him. Were you with Alara? Noah set her down, crouching to her level. Yeah, I was. Is she okay? She seemed really sad on the TV this morning. You saw the news? Aunt Rachel was watching it. They said mean things about you. Noah's heart clenched. What kind of mean things? That you're a bad person, but I told Aunt Rachel they were wrong because you're the best daddy ever, and you would never be bad. He pulled her into another hug. He pulled, trying to shield her from the mess he'd created. When he looked up, Rachel was standing in the doorway with her arms crossed, her expression caught between sympathy and exasperation. We need to talk, she said. I know. Not in front of Mia. I know. She stepped aside to let them in. While Mia went to gather her backpack and schoolwork from the kitchen, Rachel pulled Noah into the hallway. Are you in love with her? The question was so direct it knocked the air out of him. Don't think about it. Just answer. Are you in love with Alara Voss? Noah opened his mouth, closed it, then admitted the truth he'd been avoiding since the moment she'd shown up at his door in a wedding dress. Yes, I think I am. Rachel closed her eyes. Oh, Noah, I know. You're going to lose everything. Probably. And you're doing it anyway. I don't know what else to do. Walking away would be smart, but it feels like lying. Like giving up on something that could actually be important. Rachel reached out and squeezed his shoulder. Then I hope she's worth it. I really do. Because if she's not, if this blows up and you lose your job and your reputation and you end up hurt, I'm going to have some very strong words for Ms. Alara Voss. She's worth it. You better be right. That night, after Mia was asleep, Noah sat in his kitchen with a beer he was actually drinking this time and tried to process what he'd done. He'd kissed his boss. He'd admitted feelings that should have stayed buried. He'd chosen the cliff. His phone lit up with a text from Alara. Made my decision, calling Jeffrey first thing tomorrow. Not backing down. Not sacrificing you. Not hiding what this is anymore. Noah stared at the message, feeling the weight of what she was saying. She was choosing him. Over her job security, over the board's approval, over every smart strategic move she could make. He typed back, "Are you sure? Never been more sure of anything. This is going to change everything." Good. Everything needs changing. Noah set down his phone and looked around his small kitchen, at Mia's drawings on the fridge, at the coffee maker that only worked if you hit it in exactly the right spot, at the life he'd built that was stable and safe, and suddenly not enough anymore. Tomorrow, Alara would face the board. Tomorrow, the consequences would come crashing down. Tomorrow, they'd find out if choosing each other was bravery or stupidity. But tonight, for these few quiet hours, he let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, they could survive this. That love, because that's what this was, even if saying it out loud still felt terrifying, might actually be worth the fall. The call from Jeffrey Hendricks came at 7:52 a.m., 8 minutes before Alara was supposed to walk into the board meeting. Noah heard his phone vibrate from the bathroom where he was shaving. Mia already dressed and eating cereal at the kitchen table. He wiped the foam from his face and checked the screen. Unknown number, but he answered anyway. "Mr. Carter." Jeffrey's voice was clipped, businesslike. "I'm calling as a courtesy before the board convenes. Miss Voss has informed me of her decision regarding your employment status." Noah's hand tightened on the phone. And she's refusing to suspend you. She's also refusing to step down as CEO, which puts us in a rather difficult position. Jeffrey paused. "However, there's been a development. Security footage from Ms. Voss's building yesterday evening shows you entering at 3:47 p.m. and not leaving until 6:23 p.m. Nearly 3 hours, Mr. Carter, on a day when you were already barred from the office." Noah closed his eyes. Of course there was footage. Of course someone was watching. We were discussing the Riverside project. For 3 hours? In her private residence? Again? Jeffrey's tone made it clear what he thought they'd been discussing. "Mr. Carter, I'm going to be direct. The board is prepared to force Ms. Voss out if she continues to prioritize her personal relationship with you over corporate governance. We have votes lined up. We have investors ready to move against her. But there is another option. I'm listening. You resign. Voluntarily. Immediately. You sign an NDA agreeing not to discuss your relationship with Ms. Voss or your time at Voss Industries. In exchange, we provide a generous severance package, 6 months' salary, full benefits through year-end, and a neutral reference should you seek employment elsewhere." And Alara, Ms. Voss remains as CEO. The board accepts her explanation that she made an error in judgment hiring you, that the situation became complicated, and that she's taking decisive action to correct it. We move forward. Stock stabilizes. Everyone wins. Except me. You walk away with a significant payout and your reputation intact. Under the circumstances, I'd say you're doing quite well. Jeffrey's voice softened slightly. "Look," Jeffrey's voice, "I understand you care about her, but if you really care, you'll see that staying in this position only hurts her. Every day you remain employed here, every interaction you have, it damages her credibility as a leader. Is that what you want?" "Okay." Noah looked through the bathroom door at Mia, happily swinging her legs and humming to herself while she ate. She deserved better than watching her father become tabloid fodder. She deserved stability and normalcy, and a dad who could pick her up from school without forgetting because he was too caught up in someone else's crisis. "I need to talk to Alara first." "There isn't time. The board meets in 6 minutes. I need your answer now." "Then the answer is no. I'm not making this decision without talking to her." Jeffrey sighed. "Very well. But understand what you're choosing, Mr. Carter. You're choosing a very public, very ugly fight that neither of you can win. I hope you're prepared for that." The line went dead. Noah stood in his bathroom, half-shaved, his phone still in his hand, and felt the weight of the choice settling on his shoulders. He could call Alara, could warn her what was coming. But she was probably already in the elevator heading up to the boardroom, her phone on silent, her game face on. She was walking into an ambush, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. He finished shaving mechanically, got Mia ready for school, and drove her through morning traffic while she chattered about a science project involving volcanoes. His phone stayed silent the entire drive. No texts from Alara, no updates, nothing but the awful quiet of waiting. After dropping Mia off, he couldn't bring himself to go home. He drove aimlessly for an hour, past the Voss Industries building where he imagined Elara facing down 12 board members alone, past the coffee shop where he'd met Marcus, past the park where a reporter had ambushed him and his daughter. His phone finally rang at 10:15. Elara. They voted me out. Her voice was flat, empty of emotion. Noah pulled over to the side of the road. What happened? Jeffrey presented the footage from yesterday. Someone had already leaked it to 3 different news outlets. It's probably online by now. The board called an emergency vote of no confidence. 8-4. I'm out as CEO, effective immediately. Elara, I'm so sorry. Don't be. I knew this was coming. I chose it. She took a shaky breath. Jeffrey tried to make a deal before the vote. Said if I fired you right then, if I claimed the whole thing was a mistake and I was taking corrective action, they might reconsider. I told him to go to hell. You shouldn't have done that. Yes, I should have, because firing you would have been a lie. And I'm done lying about what this is. Noah pressed his forehead against the steering wheel. So what happens now? Now I clean out my office. I issue a statement. I watch the company I built get handed over to Jeffrey and the rest of the vultures. Her voice cracked slightly. And then I figure out who I am when I'm not a CEO anymore. Where are you right now, sir? Still in the building? I have an hour to collect my things before security escorts me out. Very dignified. She laughed, brittle and sharp. 22 years. I started as an intern and worked my way up to the top floor, and now I get a cardboard box and an armed escort. I'm coming there. Noah, no. That'll just make it worse. I don't care. You shouldn't have to do this alone. I'm not alone. Patricia's here, and my lawyer, and about 6 photographers camped outside the building. She paused. But I appreciate the offer, more than you know. What can I do? Just be there. Tonight. When this is all over and the cameras are gone and I have to figure out what comes next. Can you do that? Yeah, of course. Thank you. Her voice got quieter. Noah? I don't regret it, any of it. I just need you to know that. I know. After she hung up, Noah sat in his truck on the side of the road and watched normal people go about their normal lives. A woman walking a dog, a delivery driver hauling packages, a couple arguing outside a coffee shop. None of them knew that 15 blocks away, a woman was losing everything she'd built because she'd chosen honesty over strategy. His phone buzzed with the news alert. He didn't want to look but couldn't help himself. Breaking. Elara Voss. Removed as CEO following workplace relationship scandal. The article had photos, the security footage from her building, grainy but unmistakable. Him entering. Him leaving hours later. A timeline that made it look exactly like what everyone assumed it was. Further down, quotes from sources close to the board saying the decision was unanimous. The Voss had shown poor judgment, that the company needed leadership that prioritized shareholders over personal entanglements. And at the bottom, a statement from Elara's publicist. Ms. Voss respects the board's decision and wishes Voss Industries continued success. She will be taking time to consider her next steps and ask for privacy during this transition. Nothing about Noah. Nothing defending their relationship or explaining what had actually happened. Just a dignified exit from the woman who'd never learned to fight for herself the way she fought for her company. Noah's phone rang again. Rachel, please tell me you're not the reason she just lost her job. I'm the reason. Noah, I know, Rach, I know what you're going to say. I know I screwed up. I know this is a disaster. He could hear the strain in his own voice. But I can't keep apologizing for caring about someone, for letting someone in when they needed it, even if it cost us both everything. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Are you okay? The question surprised him. I should be asking her that. I'm asking you, my brother, the one who sounds like he's about 2 seconds from falling apart. Noah realized his hands were shaking. I don't know. I feel like I ruined her life. Did you force her to hire you? No. Did you force her to defend you to the board? No, but did you force her to choose you over her job? Rachel, it's not that simple. It kind of is, though. She made her choices. You made yours. Now you both have to live with them. Rachel's voice softened. I'm not saying it's not hard. I'm not saying you didn't make mistakes. But you can't carry all of this by yourself. She's an adult. She knew what she was risking. That doesn't make it easier. No, but it makes it real. And real is better than safe sometimes, even when it hurts. After they hung up, Noah drove to a park and sat on a bench and tried to figure out what he was supposed to do with the rest of his day. He'd resigned his position an hour ago via email. A brief note to Patricia saying he was stepping down effective immediately, that he didn't want his continued employment to cause further damage to the company. He didn't mention severance or NDAs or any of Jeffrey's deal. He just walked away. Now he had no job, no prospects, and a daughter who deserved better than a father who kept making choices that ended in disaster. His phone buzzed with a text from Alara. Just left the building. Photographers everywhere. My mother called to tell me I've embarrassed the family. Marcus sent flowers with a card that said, "I told you so." Living the dream. Noah typed back, "Where are you going?" "Home. Going to drink expensive wine and watch trash TV and not think about anything important for at least 12 hours. Want company?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Yes, but maybe not tonight. Tonight I need to fall apart alone. Tomorrow, though. Tomorrow I could use a friend. Tomorrow, then. Call if you change your mind." "I will." And Noah, thank you for not saying I told you so. Everyone else has. You made the choice you had to make. No judgment here. That's why I keep choosing you. Noah stared at that message for a long time. Then he drove home, picked up Mia from Rachel's early, and spent the afternoon teaching his daughter how to build a birdhouse from scrap wood in the garage. She painted it purple with yellow polka dots. And when she asked why he wasn't at work, he told her the truth in 7-year-old terms. Sometimes grown-ups have to leave jobs that aren't the right fit anymore. Like when you left your old job to spend more time with me? Kind of like that, yeah. Is it because of Alara? Noah set down his hammer. What makes you say that? Emma's mom says Alara got in trouble at work because of you. Emma told everyone at school. Mia painted another polka dot with intense concentration. I told Emma her mom was wrong and you didn't get anyone in trouble. But did you? It's complicated, sweetheart, Ma. You always say that. She looked up at him with those 2 wise eyes. I think complicated means you don't want to explain it. And sometimes it means the truth is messy and hard to put into simple words. So try the messy words. Hey, Noah sat down on the garage floor next to her. Alara and I became friends, good friends. The kind of friends where you care about each other a lot. But because she was my boss, people thought it was wrong for us to be friends like that. So she had to leave her job to prove she wasn't doing anything bad. But she wasn't doing anything bad. No. But sometimes what people think matters more than what's actually true. Mia frowned, processing this. That's stupid. Yeah, it kind of is. Are you still going to be friends with her? I hope so. Good, because she makes you smile different, remember? Mia went back to painting. And you should get to keep people who make you happy, even if other people think it's weird. Waman atanchishiits, out of the mouths of children. Noah helped her finish the birdhouse, and they hung it in the backyard tree where they could watch from the kitchen window. Mia was proud of her work, and Noah tried to focus on that, on this simple good thing they'd built together, instead of everything that was falling apart. That night, after Mia was asleep, he found himself staring at his laptop screen, cursor blinking in an empty job search box. He needed to find work. Bills didn't stop just because his life had imploded, but every job posting felt wrong, every opportunity flat. His phone lit up with a text. Not Alara, Marcus. I heard about today. For what it's worth, I didn't want this for her. She deserves better than being forced out of her own company. Noah stared at the message, surprised. He typed back, "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you care about her. And despite everything, I do too. Just because we didn't work doesn't mean I want to see her destroyed. She's not destroyed, just knocked down. Same thing, to someone who's never been knocked down before." A pause. Then another message. "Take care of her. She won't ask for help, but she needs it. I will. And Carter? Don't waste this. If you're going to blow up both your lives for each other, at least make it mean something." Noah set down his phone and sat in the quiet of his kitchen, thinking about what Marcus had said. Make it mean something. That was the real question, wasn't it? All this chaos, all this loss, what was it for? What were they building from the rubble? He didn't have an answer yet, but he knew he'd find it with Alara, one way or another. The next morning brought more news coverage, more speculation, more armchair analysis of what had really happened between them. Noah ignored all of it and focused on making Mia breakfast, getting her to school on time, maintaining the routines that kept their life steady, even when everything else was spinning out. At 10 a.m., his doorbell rang. He opened it to find Patricia standing on his porch, looking official and uncomfortable. "I'm here in a personal capacity," she said, not representing the company. "Okay. Can I come in?" Noah stepped aside. Patricia walked into his living room and looked around like she was cataloging everything: the worn furniture, the toys scattered on the floor, the framed photos of Mia at various ages. "Nice place," she said, and sounded like she meant it. "Thanks. What's this about?" Patricia pulled an envelope from her bag. "Severance agreement. Despite your resignation, the company's offering you 3 months' salary plus benefits. All you have to do is sign the NDA. "What happens if I don't sign?" "Nothing, legally. You resign voluntarily. But Jeffrey asked me to tell you that signing would be a gesture of goodwill, that it would help the company move forward without further complications." Noah took the envelope but didn't open it. "And what do you think I should do?" "I think you should do whatever lets you sleep at night." Patricia sat down on his couch without being invited. Can I speak off the record?" "Sure. I've worked in HR for 15 years. I've seen every kind of workplace drama you can imagine. Affairs, harassment, favoritism, you name it." She leaned forward. "What you and Alara had? That wasn't an affair. That was two people who genuinely cared about each other trying to navigate an impossible situation. You both made mistakes, but you weren't malicious. You weren't using each other. You were just human. Tell that to the board. The board doesn't care about human. They care about liability and optics and keeping shareholders happy." Patricia stood up. "My advice? Sign the NDA. Take the money. Use it to take care of your daughter while you figure out what's next. Because fighting them, will only hurt you more." "What about Alara? Alara's got enough money to be unemployed for the rest of her life. You don't. That's not romantic, it's just practical." She headed for the door, then turned back. "For what it's worth, I think she made the right choice, choosing you. Some things are worth more than a corner office." After Patricia left, Noah opened the envelope and read through the severance agreement. 3 months' salary was nearly $40,000, enough to float him while he found new work, enough to build a real safety net for Mia. All he had to do was promise never to talk about what had happened. He set the papers aside and texted Alara, "Can I come over?" Her response came quickly. "Please do." The drive to her building felt different this time. No nervousness, no second-guessing, just a straightforward journey to see someone who mattered. The doorman waved him through without checking his ID, and when the elevator opened into her apartment, Alara was waiting. She looked terrible. Not in an appearance way. She was still beautiful, still put together, but in a bone-deep exhaustion that showed in every line of her face. Like she'd been carrying something heavy for too long and had finally set it down. "Hi," she said. "Hi." They stood there for a moment, and then Alara stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. Not romantic, not sexual, just holding on. Noah held her back. Noah. Feeling her shoulders shake with tears she'd probably been holding in for 24 hours. "I'm so tired," she said into his shoulder. "I'm so tired of being strong and strategic and 3 steps ahead of everything. I just want to stop." "Then stop. Right now. For today. Just stop." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "I don't know how. We'll figure it out together." They ended up on her couch with coffee neither of them drank, talking about everything that had happened since the board meeting. Alara had already received calls from 3 different companies trying to poach her, offers to join other boards, invitations to speak at conferences about female leadership. Everyone wanted a piece of her story now that she was available. "It's like they think getting fired is the best thing that ever happened to me," she said. "Like I should be grateful for the opportunity to start fresh. Are you? Grateful?" "I don't know yet. Ask me in a month." She pulled her knees up to her chest. "What about you? Patricia said she delivered the severance papers." "She did." "Are you going to sign?" Noah pulled the envelope from his jacket pocket. "Should I?" That's your call. But Noah, You should know that if you don't sign, if you decide to fight this or tell your side of the story, I'll back you up, whatever you need. Even if it makes things harder for you, especially then, I'm done protecting myself at other people's expense. Noah looked at the envelope, at the papers inside that would give him money and security and silence. Then he looked at Alara, at this woman who'd lost everything rather than deny what they meant to each other. He tore the envelopes in half. What are you doing? Alara's eyes went wide. Choosing messy over safe. He tore it again. I don't want their money. I don't want to sign something that says I'm ashamed of what happened or that you did anything wrong. I want… What? What do you want? Noah set the torn papers on her coffee table. I want to build something real with you. Not hidden, not strategic, just real. I want to take you on actual dates and introduce you to Rachel properly, and let Mia get to know you as more than just the princess dress lady who makes pancakes. Noah, I want to stop pretending this is complicated when actually it's the simplest thing in my life. I care about you. You care about me. Everything else is just noise. Alara was crying again, but smiling this time. That's a terrible financial decision. Probably the worst I've ever made. You'll regret it. I doubt that. She launched herself at him, kissing him hard enough that they both fell sideways on the couch. When they broke apart, breathless and tangled together, Alara laughed, the first real, unguarded laugh he'd heard from her in weeks. Okay, she said. Okay, let's do this. Let's be messy and real and figure it out as we go. Just like that? Just like that. She kissed him again, softer this time. But Noah, I need you to understand what you're signing up for. The media is not going to let this go. People are going to have opinions. Your life is going to be different. I know. And Mia, we have to think about Mia. She comes first. Always. Always most, Noah agreed. Which means we take this slow. We don't rush into anything. We let her get comfortable with the idea of us before we make it official. How slow is slow? I don't know, but we'll figure it out together, one day at a time. Alara nodded, settling against his chest. I can do one day at a time. They stayed like that for hours, talking through logistics and fears and hopes. What Noah would do for work, maybe start his own consulting firm, focus on community development projects that actually mattered. What Alara would do with her freedom, the nonprofit she'd always dreamed of, working directly with underserved communities instead of from a boardroom. How they'd navigate the public scrutiny, the judgment, the inevitable complications. Around 3, Noah's phone rang. Rachel. Where are you? Alara's place. I figured, listen, there are reporters at your house, 3 of them. They tried to talk to Mia when I picked her up from school. Noah sat up so fast he almost knocked Alara off the couch. What? She's fine. I told them to back off or I'd call the cops, and they did. But Noah, this is getting out of hand. You need to do something. I'm coming home, right now. Don't let Mia out of your sight. He was already standing, grabbing his jacket. Alara stood too. What happened? Reporters at my house. They tried to talk to Mia. His voice was hard. I have to go. I'm coming with you. Alara, that'll just make it worse. I don't care. If they're going after your daughter because of me, I'm going to make damn sure they know it's not okay. They took her car, faster, newer, less likely to be recognized. The drive back to Noah's neighborhood felt endless, every red light an eternity. When they finally turned onto his street, the reporters were still there, 4 now instead of 3, cameras ready. Noah pulled into his driveway and got out. Alara followed. Mr. Carter, can you comment on your relationship with Alara Voss? Is it true you were fired for inappropriate conduct? Ms. Voss, do you regret choosing him over your career? Noah ignored them, heading straight for Rachel's car parked across the street. But Alara stopped, turning to face the cameras. You want a statement? Here's your statement. Noah Carter is one of the most decent, honest men I've ever met. Our relationship is none of your business, but yes, we're together. Yes, I chose him over my job, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Her voice was steady, fierce. But if any of you ever approach his daughter again, if you so much as look at her wrong, I will make it my personal mission to ensure you never work in journalism again. Are we clear? The reporter stared at her, camera still rolling but question suddenly absent. Good. Now get off this street before I call the police. She turned and walked to Rachel's car with Noah, leaving the reporters scrambling to pack up their equipment. Rachel was standing in the driveway with Mia, both of them watching with wide eyes. That was amazing, Rachel said. Alara just shrugged. Nobody messes with kids, that's the line. Mia tugged on Noah's hand. Is Alara your girlfriend now? See.
Yeah, sweetheart, she is. Good. I like her. Mia turned to Alara. Do you want to see the birdhouse we made? It's purple. Alara looked at Noah, questioning. He nodded. I'd love to see it.
They all went inside, Noah, Alara, Rachel, and Mia, and spent the evening being aggressively normal. They ordered pizza. They looked at the birdhouse and appropriately admired Mia's painting skills. Rachel grilled Alara with the protective intensity of a sister who'd watched her brother get hurt before, and Alara answered every question honestly. Around 8, after Mia was in bed and Rachel had gone home with a warning to Noah that he better not screw this up, Noah and Alara sat on his back porch in the gathering dark. Your sister's intense, Alara said. She cares. I noticed. Alara leaned against him. She asked me what my intentions were, like we're in a Victorian novel. What did you tell her? The truth. That I don't know what happens next, but I know I want you in it. That I'm going to mess up, probably, because I'm better at running companies than relationships, but that I'm willing to try if you are. Noah kissed the top of her head. I'm willing. Even though it's messy? Especially because it's messy. Messy means real. Messy means we're actually living instead of just performing. Alara was quiet for a moment. I love you, you know. I probably shouldn't say it this soon, but I do. I think I have since you opened your door and let me in without asking questions. Noah felt his chest tighten. I love you too. Even though it's terrifying and complicated and probably a disaster waiting to happen. Probably, Shang, she agreed. But it's our disaster. Look. They sat there as the sky darkened and the stars came out, just existing together in the quiet. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, figuring out work, handling the media, building a relationship in the wreckage of everything they'd lost. But tonight, they had this moment of peace and certainty that whatever came next, they'd face it together. And somehow, impossibly, that felt like enough. 3 months later, Noah stood in the middle of an empty warehouse in Riverside, watching dust motes drift through shafts of afternoon sunlight, and tried to imagine what this space could become. Community center here, he said, gesturing to the east side. Kitchen and meeting rooms on the west. Second floor gets divided into classrooms and workshop spaces. Wow, this we. Alara walked the perimeter, her footsteps echoing on concrete. She'd traded her CEO wardrobe for jeans and work boots, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. What about the loading dock? Convert it to outdoor gathering space. Put in some gardens, maybe a basketball court. You've thought this through. I've had time. Noah pulled out his tablet, showing her the renderings he'd been working on. This whole project, it's what I should have been doing all along. Not chasing corporate positions or trying to fit into someone else's vision, just building things that matter. Alara studied the plans, and Noah watched her face shift into that focused expression he'd come to know well over the past 3 months. The expression that meant she was already 5 steps ahead, seeing possibilities he hadn't considered yet. We'll need funding, she said. Grants, donations, maybe some small business partnerships. I know. I've been reaching out to... Wait, we? She looked up at him. Did you think I was just here for moral support? Noah, this is exactly the kind of project I want to spend my time on now. Community development, actual impact, none of the board meeting nonsense. She smiled. Besides, somebody has to keep you organized. I'm organized. You have 17 different spreadsheets for this project and none of them match. That's organized in my own way, say. That's chaos in everyone else's way. But she was still smiling, and when she crossed the warehouse floor to stand beside him, she laced her fingers through his like it was the most natural thing in the world. They'd spent the past 3 months figuring out what their life looked like, without the structure of Voss Industries defining it. It had been messy and uncertain, and nothing like the smooth transition Noah had hoped for. Money was tight. His carpentry work barely covered bills, and Alara refused to touch her substantial savings for everyday expenses, insisting they build something sustainable instead of just coasting on her wealth. They'd fought. Real fights, not the polite disagreements of people trying to be perfect for each other. About money and time and how to balance Mia's needs with their relationship. About whether to respond to the media requests that still trickled in or ignore them completely. About what they were building together and whether it was enough. But they'd also laughed. Late nights planning the Riverside project while Mia slept. Weekend mornings making pancakes together, Alara finally learning to cook more than one breakfast item. Quiet moments on Noah's back porch where they didn't need to fill the silence with words. Mia had adjusted better than Noah expected. She liked Alara, asked questions about why some people were mean to them on the internet, and seemed to understand in her 7-year-old way that adult relationships were complicated but not scary. Rachel had warmed up too, after several interrogations that would have made FBI agents proud. The media had eventually found other scandals to chase. There were still articles sometimes, Where Are They Now pieces that painted them either as cautionary tales or romantic rebels, depending on the publication's angle. Noah had learned to ignore most of it. What he couldn't ignore was the growing sense that they were building towards something bigger than either of them had imagined that night when Alara showed up at his door. "I got a call yesterday," Alara said, still studying the warehouse. "From Derek Connolly." Noah tensed. What did he want? To apologize, actually, and to tell me the Riverside expansion project fell apart. The community rejected the new team's proposal, said it felt like more corporate colonialism dressed up as development. Can't say I'm surprised. Derek asked if I'd be willing to consult, help them rebuild trust with the neighborhood. Alara turned to face him. I told him I wasn't interested in consulting for Voss Industries, but I might be interested in partnering with them on a community-led project that puts decision-making power in local hands instead of corporate ones. Noah raised his eyebrows. And he said? He said he'd bring it to Jeffrey, see if there's appetite for a different approach. Oleg. She paused. Noah, this could be it. The funding we need, the legitimacy with the community, all of it. But it means working with the company that forced us both out. You want to do it? I want to do it right. And if working with Voss Industries is what it takes to make this happen for Riverside, then yeah, I want to do it. She searched his face. But I need to know you're okay with it. This is as much your project as mine. Noah looked around his warehouse, imagining it filled with people from the neighborhood. Kids learning woodworking in the workshop he'd design. Parents attending job training in the classrooms. Community meetings where residents actually had a voice in their own future. I'm okay with it, as long as we're the ones calling the shots this time. Deal. Alara pulled out her phone. I'll set up a meeting with Derek for next week. We'll present this as a partnership, not a charity project. Voss Industries gets positive PR and community goodwill. Riverside gets real investment and ownership. Everyone wins. When did you get so good at negotiation? I was always good at negotiation. I was just negotiating for the wrong things before. They spent another hour in the warehouse, measuring spaces and arguing good-naturedly about whether the community garden should go in the back or the side yard. By the time they left, Noah felt that familiar spark of possibility, the feeling he used to get starting a new construction project, before corporate politics and quarterly earnings had drained the joy out of building. On the drive back to Noah's house, Alara's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her expression shifted. It's my mother. You don't have to answer. I know, but I should. She swiped to accept. Hello, Mother. Noah couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but he watched Alara's face cycle through resignation, irritation, and something that might have been amusement. Yes, I'm aware the society pages are still writing about me. No, I'm not embarrassed. Because I'm happy, that's why. Mother, I really don't care what the Hendersons think. We've had this conversation already. Fine, yes, I'll think about it. Goodbye. She hung up and slumped in her seat. My mother wants me to attend a charity gala next month. Says it's time I reclaimed my place in society instead of hiding away doing community work with a carpenter. She actually said that? Not in those exact words, she's more diplomatic than that. But the message was clear. Alara looked out the window. She offered to buy me a table if I'd come alone. Said it would help people see I've moved past the whole scandal. What did you tell her? That I'd think about it, which really means no, but saying no directly would trigger a 3-hour lecture about duty and reputation and squandering my advantages. She turned to him. Do you ever feel like you disappointed someone just by being yourself? Every day until I left my construction job to raise Mia. Then I realized the only person I needed to not disappoint was my daughter. Everyone else could adjust their expectations. Alara smiled. How very healthy and well-adjusted of you. Imbes. Ah, shit, ba mommy. I had good motivation. You should tell your mother you're bringing a +1 to the gala. You hate those things. I do, but I love you. And if showing up in a rented tux to prove we're not hiding is what it takes, I'll do it. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Neither do you. But if you want to go, if some part of you wants to walk into that ballroom with your head up and show everyone you're doing just fine, then I'm coming with you. Alara reached over and squeezed his hand. You know they'll stare. They'll whisper. Some of them will be outright rude. Let them. We've survived worse than rich people with opinions. The gala was exactly as awful as Noah expected. He'd rented a tux that almost fit, and Alara wore a dress that probably cost more than his truck, and they walked into the grand ballroom at the Meridian Hotel like they owned the place. Which, in a way, Alara kind of did. Her family had been donating to this particular charity for 3 generations. The whispers started the moment they entered. Noah felt eyes tracking them across the room, heard the sudden hush of conversation stopping mid-sentence. Alara's hand tightened on his arm, but her smile never wavered. Alara! A woman in her 60s materialized in front of them, dripping diamonds and false warmth. How wonderful to see you. We were all so worried after that unfortunate business with the company. No need to worry, Margaret. I'm doing quite well. Sister. And this must be the famous Noah Carter. Margaret's smile was sharp. I've read so much about you. I'm sure you have. Noah kept his voice pleasant. You're a carpenter, is that right? How quaint. We had a wonderful carpenter redo our summer house deck last year. Perhaps you know him? Tony something? Construction's a big field. Lots of Tonys. Margaret laughed like he'd said something hilarious. Well, I do hope you're enjoying yourself, though I imagine this is all quite different from what you're used to. Alara's grip on his arm had gone from tight to painful. If you'll excuse us, Margaret, I see someone I need to speak with. She steered them away before Margaret could respond. Once they were out of earshot, Noah leaned close. You okay? I forgot how much I hate these people. Your people. Not anymore. Not for a long time. She grabbed 2 glasses of champagne from a passing waiter and handed him one. Let's make this quick. Show face, say hello to my mother, and get out of here before I say something I'll regret. But quick wasn't in the cards. For the next hour, they were stopped every few feet by someone wanting to express surprise at seeing Alara, concern about her current situation, or thinly veiled criticism disguised as friendly advice. Noah watched her handle each interaction with practiced grace, her CEO mask firmly in place even though he could see the strain in her eyes. Then Marcus appeared. He looked the same, perfectly groomed, expensively dressed, every inch the successful executive. He approached with a woman on his arm, blonde and polished and clearly nervous about the encounter. Alara, Noah, Marcus nodded to each of them. This is Jennifer Hayes. Jennifer, you know Alara, of course. And this is Noah Carter. Jennifer's handshake was brief. It's nice to meet you both. An awkward silence descended. Noah found himself studying Marcus, looking for signs of bitterness or anger. Instead, he just looked tired. I heard about the Riverside project, Marcus said. Derek mentioned you might be partnering with Voss Industries on it. Potentially, Alara said carefully. Nothing's finalized yet. It's good work, the kind of thing you always wanted to do but never had time for. Marcus glanced at Noah. Both of you. It suits you better than corporate life did. Ite? Thank you, Noah said, genuinely surprised. I mean it. I was angry for a long time after everything. But I've had time to think, and I realize now that we would have made each other miserable. You did us both a favor by calling it off when you did. Alara's expression softened. I'm sorry I hurt you, Marcus. You deserve better than what I did. Bryce. Maybe, but I got Jennifer out of it, so things worked out. He smiled at the woman beside him, and Noah saw real affection there. We're actually engaged, just happened last week. Congratulations, Alara said, and sounded like she meant it. I'm happy for you both. They talked for a few more minutes, polite, genuine conversation that felt nothing like the hostile encounter Noah had braced for. When Marcus and Jennifer moved on, Alara let out a long breath. That was surprisingly not terrible. He seems good. Happier than in the coffee shop. He is, and so am I. She turned to face Noah fully. Can we leave now? I've done my duty. I've shown my face. I've proven I'm not hiding in shame. I'd really like to go home. Home to my place, or home to yours? Yours. Mia promised to teach me how to play that card game she's obsessed with. They made their escape, slipping out through a side door to avoid another round of awkward conversations. In the parking lot, Alara kicked off her heels with a sigh of relief. Remind me never to do that again. You did good in there. Didn't let them get to you. I let them get to me a little, but I had you, so it was bearable. She leaned against the car. Noah, can I ask you something? Always. Do you ever regret it? Saying yes when I showed up that night? Taking the job? Everything that came after? Noah thought about it seriously. The job loss, the media circus, the financial stress, the fights with Alara, the worried looks from Rachel, the reporters who'd tried to talk to his daughter. None of it had been easy. But then he thought about Saturday mornings making pancakes with Alara and Mia, late-night planning sessions for Riverside where they'd laughed until they cried. The moment Alara had faced down a boardroom full of powerful men and chosen him anyway. The simple, extraordinary fact of being with someone who saw him completely and loved him. Not despite his flaws, but including them. No, he said. I don't regret any of it, even the hard parts, especially the hard parts, because they showed me what we could survive together. Alara kissed him. They're in the parking lot in their fancy clothes, and when she pulled back, her eyes were bright with tears. I love you. I know I say it all the time now, but I don't think I'll ever get tired of saying it. Good. Because I don't think I'll ever get tired of hearing it. They drove home, to Noah's house, to Mia already asleep on the couch with Rachel reading beside her, to the life they'd built from the wreckage of everything they'd lost. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't what either of them had planned, but it was real, and it was theirs. 6 months after that, Noah stood in the renovated Riverside warehouse, now officially the Riverside Community Center, and watched the neighborhood gather for the grand opening. The transformation had taken longer than planned and cost more than budgeted, and required compromise after compromise with Voss Industries and city officials and community groups who all had different visions for what the space should be. There had been moments when Noah thought the whole project would fall apart, when the politics and paperwork and endless meetings made him want to walk away. But Alara had kept them going. She'd negotiated with Derek and Jeffrey until they'd hammered out a partnership structure that gave the community real ownership while keeping Voss Industries invested. She'd written grants and pitched donors, and somehow convinced 3 different foundations that Riverside was worth backing. And now, 6 months later, the warehouse was alive. Kids running through the workshop where Noah taught woodworking twice a week. Adults filing into the classroom space for a job training session. The community garden outside already showing the first green shoots of vegetables planted by neighborhood residents. Derek Connolly stood near the entrance, looking uncomfortable but present. He'd come to represent Voss Industries at the opening, and to Noah's surprise, he'd seemed genuinely impressed by what they'd built. This is good work, Carter. Better than anything we were proposing before. That's because we listened instead of assuming we knew what people needed. Fair point. Derek paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry about how everything went down. With your hiring, the investigation, all of it. You got caught in the crossfire of board politics that had nothing to do with your actual work. Yeah, well, worked out okay in the end. Did it? Derek gestured around the warehouse. You could have been making 6 figures in a comfortable office. Instead, you're here, running a nonprofit that probably pays you a fraction of that. Noah watched Alara cross the room, talking animatedly with a group of residents about expansion plans for the 2nd floor. Mia was beside her, proudly showing off of the birdhouse Noah had helped her make in the workshop, an upgraded version of the purple one from their garage, but with the same enthusiasm. Yeah, Noah said. It worked out okay. Derek followed his gaze and something in his expression shifted. You're happy. It wasn't a question, but Noah answered anyway. Happier than I've been in years. Turns out money and titles don't mean much if you hate what you're doing to get them. That's very philosophical.
That's very true.
Noah turned to face him. Look, I appreciate you coming today, and I appreciate Voss Industries' partnership on this. But if you came here to offer me a job or try to bring me back into the corporate world, the answer's no. This is where I belong. Derek actually smiled. I wasn't going to offer you a job. I was going to ask if you'd be willing to consult on other community projects. Not as an employee, as a partner. Voss Industries wants to replicate this model in other neighborhoods. We'll provide funding and resources. You and Alara provide the expertise and community connections. Well, Noah considered it. More projects meant more impact, more neighborhoods getting resources they needed. But it also meant more interaction with Voss Industries, more potential for the power dynamics and politics that had destroyed them before. I'll talk to Alara about it. But Derek, if we do this, it's on our terms. We're not interested in photo ops or PR stunts. We want real change, real community ownership, real investment that lasts longer than a press cycle. I understand. And honestly, that's exactly what we need, someone to keep us honest. They shook hands, and Derek headed out. Noah found Alara a few minutes later, still surrounded by residents who wanted to share ideas for what else the center could offer. You're going to be here all night if they keep going, he said when there was a brief lull.
I don't mind. This is what it's supposed to feel like. People actually excited about being part of their own community. She glanced at Mia, who was now showing her birdhouse to another kid. Anstat, she's doing okay? She's perfect. Told 3 different people that her dad built this place. You did build it. We built it. Together. Noah pulled her aside slightly, lowering his voice. Derek wants to talk about replicating this model in other neighborhoods. Consulting work, partnership basis. What did you tell him? That I talked to you about it, that if we do it, it's on our terms. Alara was quiet for a moment, watching the center come alive around them. A year ago, I would have jumped at an opportunity like this. Partnership with a major corporation, expansion potential, all of it. But now I wonder if we need them at all. What if we just did this ourselves? Built our own firm, our own model? Worked directly with communities instead of through corporate partnerships? Noah felt something shift in his chest. That's a lot of risk, says the man who turned down $40,000 in severance to tear up an NDA. Fair point. I'm serious, Noah. We've proven this works. We know how to do it. Why do we need Voss Industries or anyone else to validate that? She turned to face him fully. I have money. You have expertise. Together we could build something that's entirely ours. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. No safety net, no corporate backing, just them and their vision and whatever they could make of it. Okay, Noah said. Let's do it. Just like that? Just like that. You jumped off a cliff for me. Seems only fair I return the favor. Alara laughed, and it was the sound of someone who'd finally figured out what freedom felt like. We're either going to change the world or crash spectacularly. Probably both. I can live with that. Whoops. They spent the rest of the evening at the community center, talking to residents and accepting congratulations and watching Mia make friends with kids from the neighborhood. By the time they packed up to leave, Noah's face hurt from smiling. Rachel met them at Noah's house, where she'd been waiting to hear how the opening went. When Noah told her about the plan to start their own firm, she didn't look surprised. Of course you are, because neither of you knows how to take the safe option. You think it's a bad idea? I think it's the most you idea you've had in years. Scary, risky, and probably going to give me heart palpitations worrying about whether you can pay your mortgage. But it's right for you. Rachel looked at Alara. Both of you. We're going to fail a lot before we figure it out, Alara said. Probably, but you'll figure it out together, and that counts for something.
Well, you're some. After Rachel left, after Mia was asleep, Noah and Alara sat in the backyard with the birdhouse hanging in the tree and talked about what their future might look like. Not the perfect, planned future they'd each imagined in different ways before, but the real, messy, uncertain future they were building together. I'm scared, Alara admitted, of failing, of letting people down, of not being good enough at this. Me too, but I'm also excited. For the first time in forever, I'm doing something that feels like it matters. It does matter. To Riverside, to the communities we'll work with next, to Mia, who's watching us build something real instead of just talking about it. Alara leaned against his shoulder. I never thanked you, for opening your door that night. You've thanked me about 100 times. And I'll probably thank you 100 more, because that choice, letting me in when you had every reason not to, that changed everything. Noah thought about that night, about the wedding dress, and the tears, and the decision to choose compassion over caution. It had seemed so simple at the time, just helping someone who needed it. He hadn't known it would cost them both everything, but he also hadn't known it would give them everything that actually mattered. You changed everything too, he said. Showed up and reminded me that safe isn't always the same as good, that taking risks on people is how you build a real life instead of just a comfortable one. Is this a real life? Us sitting in your backyard planning a business that might not work? Raising your daughter together? Building community centers for neighborhoods that can barely afford to maintain them? Yeah, this is as real as it gets. Alara was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I want to sell my penthouse. Noah turned to look at her. What? The apartment downtown. I barely stay there anymore. I'm here most nights. And the money from selling it could fund the business, give us runway to build without taking on debt or outside investors. She met his eyes. Plus, I've been thinking, maybe it's time to make this official. Not the business, I mean, us. Noah's heart kicked up. Are you, asking you to move in together? Yes. Eventually. When it makes sense for Mia, when we're both ready. I'm not proposing or anything. I want a future where we're building one home instead of splitting time between two. Where your kitchen is my kitchen, and that ridiculous purple birdhouse is as much mine as yours. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said about a purple birdhouse. I'm serious, Noah. Yeah, I know, and I love you for it. But Alara, are you sure? Selling the penthouse, starting a business together, moving in eventually, that's a lot of risk to take on one person. On me. You're not just any person. You're the person who saw me at my worst and didn't run, who gave up a stable job and financial security because you believed what we had was worth protecting, who builds birdhouses with his daughter and community centers with me and somehow makes both feel equally important. She took his hand. So yeah, I'm sure. I'm betting everything on us, because us is the only thing I've ever been completely certain about. Noah kissed her, there in the backyard under the stars, with the purple birdhouse swaying in the tree and their whole uncertain future stretching out ahead of them. And for the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to be truly, completely, messily happy. The next year was chaos. They filed the paperwork to create Carter Voss Community Development. Alara had insisted on both their names despite Noah's protests that she was the one with the business experience. They sold her penthouse and used the money to fund their first 3 projects while they built up a client base. They hired Patricia away from Voss Industries to handle operations, and she accepted with a comment about finally working somewhere that valued people over profit margins. They failed. A lot. Their second project fell through when funding dried up. Their third ran into permitting issues that delayed everything by 4 months. They had screaming fights about money and priorities and whether they were in over their heads. But they also succeeded. The Riverside Center became a model for community-led development. 2 more neighborhoods approached them about similar projects. Foundations started taking them seriously. Slowly, painfully, they built something that worked. Alara moved in on a Saturday in October, bringing boxes of clothes and books and the professional kitchen equipment she'd finally learned to use. Mia helped her unpack, chattering about how now they could have pancake Saturdays every week, instead of just sometimes. Rachel gave them 6 months before the reality of living together made them want to kill each other. They made it 8 months before their first huge fight about whose turn it was to do dishes escalated into whether they wanted the same things long term. They worked through it. Learned to fight fair, to apologize, to choose each other even when it was hard. 2 years after that night with the wedding dress, Noah proposed. Not with a fancy restaurant or a grand gesture, but on a Tuesday evening while they were reviewing budget projections for their 4th community center. He'd been watching Alara argue passionately about funding allocations, her hair falling out of its ponytail, her reading glasses slipping down her nose, and he'd realized he wanted to spend the rest of his life watching her fight for things that mattered. "Marry me," he said, interrupting her mid-sentence about grant compliance. She blinked. "What?" "Marry me. Not because it makes sense strategically or because anyone expects it. Just because I love you and I want you to be my wife." "That's the worst proposal I've ever heard." "Probably. But do you want to anyway?" Alara started crying and laughing at the same time. "Yes, you absolute disaster of a man. Yes, eh." They got married in Noah's backyard with Mia as the flower girl and Rachel as maid of honor and 50 people from Riverside and other neighborhoods they'd worked with. No fancy venue, no 400 guests, no corporate networking disguised as celebration. Just 2 people who'd found each other in the middle of chaos and decided to keep choosing each other every day after. Jeffrey Hendricks sent a gift, a generous donation to Carter Voss Community Development with a note that said, "Congratulations, you were right and we were wrong. Keep doing the good work." Marcus sent flowers with a card that read, "To the couple who proved that sometimes the mess is worth it. Wishing you every happiness." Alara's mother came to the wedding, though she spent most of it looking vaguely horrified by the casual nature of everything. But she hugged Alara at the end and whispered something that made Alara smile through tears, and Noah figured that was progress. 5 years after the wedding that never happened, Alara stood in the 7th community center they'd built and watched Noah teach a workshop on basic construction skills to a group of teenagers from the neighborhood. He was patient and funny and completely in his element, showing them how to measure twice and cut once while Mia, now 12 and impossibly tall, assisted like she'd been doing this her whole life. "Your husband's good at this," Patricia said, appearing beside her with a clipboard. "He is. Better than he gives himself credit for." "So are you. This whole thing," Patricia gestured around the center. "You built this, both of you. You took the worst moment of your professional lives and turned it into something that's changing actual communities." Alara thought about that. About the night she'd called off her wedding and run to Noah's door. About losing her job and her reputation and everything she'd thought defined her. About the slow, hard work of building something new from nothing. "I don't regret it," she said. "Not the scandal, not losing Voss Industries, none of it. Because it brought me here. To this work, to Noah, to a life that's actually mine instead of one I inherited or performed." That's very profound. I've had a lot of time to think about it. Patricia smiled. "For what it's worth, I think you made the right choice. Both of you. You're happier now than I ever saw you in that CEO office." "I am. Poorer, definitely. More stressed about whether we can make payroll some months, absolutely, but happier." Alara watched Noah laugh at something one of the teenagers said. "Turns out happiness doesn't come from corner offices or stock options. It comes from building things that last with people you love." That night, after the workshop ended and they'd locked up the center and driven home through city streets lit by street lamps, Noah pulled into their driveway and turned to Alara. "You okay? You've been quiet." "Just thinking." About how we got here. All the choices that led to this moment. "Regretting any of them?" Alara reached over and took his hand. "Not a single one. Not the wedding I called off. Not the job I lost. Not the scandal or the media circus or any of it. Because every choice brought me closer to this. To you, to the work we do, to the life we've built. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Hard means it matters. Hard means we're doing something real instead of just coasting." They sat in the driveway of the house they'd renovated together. Sat in the driveway, looking at the home they'd made from Noah's bachelor pad. Mia's bike was propped against the garage. The purple birdhouse still hung in the backyard tree, weathered but sturdy. Through the window, they could see the kitchen where they'd shared countless meals and arguments and quiet mornings before the world woke up. "I love you," Noah said, "for choosing the mess, for choosing me. I love you for being worth choosing, for opening your door and letting me fall apart and helping me build something better from the pieces." They went inside, to Mia waiting with homework questions and stories about her day, to the ordinary magic of dinner and dishes and bedtime routines. And later, after Mia was asleep, they sat in their backyard under the stars and talked about the next community center, the next challenge, the next chapter of the life they were writing together. Because that's what it came down to in the end. Not the dramatic moments or the grand gestures or the choices that made headlines, but the everyday decision to keep showing up for each other, to keep building something real, to keep choosing love even when, especially when, it was complicated and messy and imperfect. Noah had learned that the night he opened his door to a woman in a wedding dress. Alara had learned it the moment she chose him over her career. And together, they'd built a life that proved the most important things were worth fighting for, even when fighting meant losing everything else. Years later, when people asked them about the scandal, about the choices they'd made and whether they'd do it all again, they had one answer. Yes, every time, without question. Because some stories don't have neat endings or moral certainties. Some stories are just about two imperfect people who found each other at exactly the right moment and decided that love, real, complicated, impossible love, was worth whatever it cost. And in the end, it always was.